Fireball, but I've got Happy Thursday on a Friday, right? Why wait for Friday? Well, we waited for Friday. So these were just, nobody else will drink these because they've been in the refrigerator. I'm going to sample them, try them out. You guys let me know if you've tried any of these. I think they're nasty, if I remember right. But anyway, tonight's topic is three things. The overall, what you can do with your chatterbaits, like size-wise, cut down the skirts or add or change blades on some of them. Some of them you can't mess with. But then also on what your guys' take is on all this controversy going on with the Bassmaster Classic, Bassmaster in general, what your thoughts are on it, and forward-facing sonar, stuff like that. And then on maybe how you started fishing, or some of you maybe still fish this way. Do you need more than one rod to actually cover most of your fishing? Like if some of you are like me, and I'll still do it to this day. I'll get in the habit. I'll go out there and have 8 rods around, and next thing you know, I'm throwing everything on one rod just to try it and getting it to work, kind of thing, adjusting myself, kind of, the bait to the rod and reel that I'm throwing at the time and making it work. I want to talk briefly about that because there's all this big talk about what you need to be able to throw chatterbaits, what you need to be able to throw this and that. And I wanted to talk about when I first got started, like you adapt yourself to the conditions, to the bait, and to all that, right? So I guess the confidence, we've talked about it before, more so than necessarily the bait you're throwing, even the rod and reels you're throwing them on, is the most important thing about fishing is you, the fisherman, right? So you got to have confidence. You've got to know that what you're going out there to do, whether it's just to have fun, that's what you're going to accomplish. If you're going out there to catch a big one, you're going to set out trying to do that. If you're just out there wanting numbers, the confidence, and you're the one that's going to make that happen or not happen, right? It doesn't matter what bait you have, what rod and reels, and all that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to touch on that and get your guys' thoughts. So as hopefully more of you join in, I don't know if Brew Tank's around getting ready to go fishing. I didn't get to go fishing. I was going to go yesterday. I might be able to go tomorrow, maybe not. I can go into that story a little bit later. But don't let me forget, I want to talk about the Trickster spinnerbait from Rick Klein. And I guess it may be news to some of you, old news to a lot of you. I didn't even realize that there's literally 2 companies now putting out that Trickster spinnerbait, or they're still available. Like some of them are selling out at places, but I guess Rick Klein's not with Lucky Strike, and he's got, I guess, the guys that, and I may be wrong on this, but I was watching a video of Rick Klein talking about the new Trickster spinnerbait and the fact that the guy he got, I think he called him Tony, I can't remember what he called him, but who was originally the guy he had make that Trickster spinnerbait for him, and that's what was a 2016 Bassmasters. He won with it, but then sold off the company, and according to Rick Klein, they don't make them like they did. They're different, and so he asked that guy again to make them, who is now with I believe it's the Fire Tiger brand, the ones we've been getting the what I call the wiggle wart type baits, and they put out a lot of other stuff. Roger Sporting Goods has quite a bit of that stuff. But anyway, I think that's going on also. So let's try this thing first. Smirnoff Ice Pink Lemonade, just because I'm thirsty. Not bad, but not great. And let's compare it to this. It's kind of like a little taste off, too. We got pink lemonade and then black cherry, I believe. And a side note, I don't drink that often, but when I do, it's usually Fireball nowadays. But when I did drink a little more, especially at the Renaissance Festival, I prefer Mike's Hard Lemonade, the original, and then do they call it black cherry? Okay, this thing is horrible. This right here is nasty. Horrible drink. I may still drink it, but no, it doesn't taste good. This one, not too bad. I could drink that. Yeah, not bad. I'll probably drink that one. Anyway, so what I have before your eyes right here And I just got out the white ones just so we could kind of see them. That's the big blade, but in a 1/2 ounce. That is basically spot remover, 3/8 ounce. That's a knockoff, but the jackhammers all look pretty much just like that. This is just a mini, not a minimax or anything. And I don't have a minimax in that size. But then this is the minimax Evo, or in this color. But that's the Evo. And I believe that's I didn't get a spot remover. I got that color because I've got all these others. And then this is just a micro, the 1/8 ounce with no skirt with that on it. So you can actually, the micro with the skirt, and depending on what trailer you use, you can make the micro look as big as a mini. It's just going to be lighter. So technically, with the blade size, it should get, they should hover around the same spot if you have a skirt on it. Without the skirt, it's going to probably ride a little lower in the water column. The thing about these is you can definitely go with like lighter line, lighter rod in theory, and all that kind of stuff. But I'll be honest, I could go out there and with 12 to 14 pound, even 15 pound tests, I can probably throw all these baits. The trick is, as I talked about in several other things, the hook set, right? So I'll get into that. But what I want to talk about here, I kind of made this guy. So here, my thoughts are, this is basically the blade size of a minimax. Actually, wait a minute. It may be even smaller. No, it's... So pretty much the blade size of like a mini or a mini max. It's a little bit smaller. So my theory here is I'm going to create a big profile bait with a 3/8 ounce, but a smaller blade. But I'll be able to go like faster without creating. So it's like my kind of a cheap way to sort of come up with like a stealth blade, right? It's not going to thump as hard, and I can go a little faster without it riding up for when I want that. Because I've been talking about like getting them to, you know, kind of hover and, you know, ride higher up in the water column with and then be able to still jump and hunt around with what you can run. But then also I'm going the opposite way on a few baits. Like I don't ever really burn it, but there are times when you want to kind of do what like Tactical Bassin talked about, even with spinnerbaits, chatterbaits, like with any moving bait, almost like what they call their burn, pause, burn, pause. Like you want to go fast and then kill it and then start back up in sort of an erratic, faster pace than just kind of floating it and then pausing it and then going a little fast jerk and then going back to a slow speed, kind of the opposite of that, going fast and then pausing it or slowing it down and then fast. And it's usually easier, the lighter the bait, of course, go like slower, it's going to ride a certain spot, but the kind of the more weight you have to less blade size. And it also kind of translates to spinnerbaits, right? So you got a big old Colorado blade and a lightweight spinnerbait. It's, you know, it's just going to thump and it's going to set up. It slows it down. So you're putting out a lot of thump, but it's going slower to help the fish find it, like the murkier, muddier water, you know, even darker, you know, at nighttime stuff when they fish those kind of thing. But then the in between. So I got some stuff going on here, but I was just going to show you guys that, and I'm not done with this one. So here's your regular, just a 1/2 ounce. This is a 3/8 that I switched the blade out, but I'm leaving this skirt long, and my plan is to put a bigger trailer, bigger, more presence on this one. This one, not going to be able to jump and, you know, have that hunting, more erratic action, but it'll have a faster pace, bigger, kind of a bigger presence, looks visual-wise, but not thump and sound-wise. And then this one is going to be, so it's heavy, it's 1/2 ounce, it's going to have the thump, but then I'm even going to short that skirting up a little bit more, and I'm going to run one of these on it, but shortened to where the shorter skirt, it'll actually be tucked up a little bit more, than like it is even on this one. So it'll look like short and stubby. Just envision it's going to be short and stubby, but fairly heavy. And that's why I want to talk about also with your spinner baits. So I've talked about it before. I've even, there's several of my first probably year or two of Bass and Bones. I had these, the Strike King spinner baits, and my favorite ones were chartreuse. But they had, like, the head was little and the most of the weight was hidden back in with the skirting, and they were these little small, like, maybe they were only 3/8 or half ounce. I don't think, maybe they were 3/4. I don't remember, but they were very little looking spinner baits that had heft to them, so you could throw them out and you could come pretty fast with them, but they weren't a menacing. And the downside to that, I couldn't feel the thump as much as like what I can now with the some of the Z-Man and these SV3 knockoffs. But talking about the Rick Klein Trickster, I remember watching the 2016 or 17 Bassmaster. I remember getting some Tricksters. I don't know whatever happened to the ones I had. I don't know if they just tore apart quick or whatever became of them. But so I'm thinking about buying a few of those. Right now there's like one. I think it was the color he ended up, the one that helped him win on the St. John's back in 2000. Was it 16 or 17 Bassmaster? Anyway, that color is all that's left on the Lucky Strike from a Tackle Warehouse of like $6 and something. But Rogers, I can't even remember the brand they have. I want to say maybe it is through the Firetail, whatever that company is. It's a fairly new company, but I guess it's the same guys that were the original creators of all the Lucky Strike. Kind of like what, Gary Dobbins has his own, or not Gary Dobbins, sorry. Not Dobbins, but G. Loomis. Gary Loomis now, started up another company after he sold off his main, company that made him all his money or whatever. So anyway, I'm thinking about getting some of those because they've got like that, according to Rick Klein, it's the blade thing. So I want to talk about that briefly for some of you that don't know any of the theories behind some of the blades and some of the thump, and why some guys will say that this bigger blade creates a thump, because there's the science as far as what a bass can see and what it can feel or hear, but what it like feels on its lateral line. A lot of people over the years have talked about in spinner baits that let me grab a spinner bait just so you guys I can kind of have something to go off of. I'll just grab a random one right here. This, one of my favorite colors, by the way, just a knockoff. But so what I like about spinnerbaits for me is just the ones that I feel I can feel them, what it's doing, like, so that I can feel that the blade's got a little thump to it, and I kind of just get that right speed to where I feel it's putting off as much thump as it can, because I can feel it in the rod. And you go a little bit faster, a little bit slower, and it kind of like deadens down. You can't feel it as well. So like those Z-Mans, the Luke Clausen, the finesse ones are probably my favorite from Z-Man. But these other small ones, I'd maybe grab one of them and show it to you for those of you that don't know. These SV3s are another one that does it about the best with the in the SV3 Mega Bass, I believe you can get this style or the double willow. And then the Rick Klein bait, the Trickster, has Colorado to Indiana, but like a long drop. Like it's not really an Indiana. It looks like more like an Indiana than any of the others. But according to him, he feels it's the best of both worlds. It's got enough. You can still run it fast, but it puts off the thump that lets the bass feel that, assuming that that's a bigger bait. Like it puts off a, to their lateral line, it puts off a bigger profile, so to speak. So if, like, say they're looking at it visually, a real big spinner bait, or if they're looking at it and it's, a smaller profile, the same thing has to do with the blades. Not only once they get up and get a visual on this, do these maybe imitate like a little bait fish and then they see the bigger one, but the blade, the thumping, vibration stuff it's putting off is before the bass maybe, he feels it coming and makes it turn to look. And basically what he's saying is the bigger bass are more likely to just look at your bait, look its direction, or seek it out before they even see it. If they feel it's a bigger snack, a bigger meal coming their way, no matter before what it even looks like. That's why he likes those blades over the willow blade kind of thing. So I probably should get a few of those, but I like those better just because I feel I can feel them better. Unfortunately, I put together just a little video. It's like 4 minutes. And you guys are probably going to see it. If not later tonight, I don't know, sometime tomorrow or Sunday at the latest. But it's already done, but it's just literally me pulling out that one Z-Man. I'll pull out one of the other ones that I have that's a willow blade. It was the last one I had. Actually, I have them in different color. So the last one I had in my bluegill color, I pull it out and I'm talking about it, and I fish it, and boom, we catch a fish. It wasn't long. I got hung up, ended up breaking it off. So just Z-Man looks just like this, except it's, I believe it's a Colorado. Yeah. So this color, and I think it's 3/8, but I may be wrong. It could have been a 1/4 ounce. But it's the same thing as, let me pull out my little baby bass color one. It's virtually this bait, but in that bluegill color I just showed you. And these right here, they got that light wire. They just put off this, like, they have that ability, what I talked about. They just kind of ride a little up. You can go kind of slow. There's just a speed. You'll feel it when you get to that speed. They're putting off what I call like max vibration, and they get bit. Like, hands down, they will get hammered. And so, like, right now, this would be the colors to be thrown also. That bluegill color, and then probably either one of this older one. This is a little, I don't even know what I got that on there for. I need to take that off. But these little baits right here are excellent also. So I need to track down, but these also work too. They're just, in my opinion, they're, I think I ended up at 3 or 4 of each. I still have all 4 of the bluegill color ones with the double willow. I don't have any of the bluegill with the Colorado Indiana. I just have a couple of this color. I do have, I believe, a sexy shad is all I got left. If you remember right, I got these new ones to try out, and so far I'm just not impressed with these. They just, maybe they'll be able to go burn them a little fat. I don't know. No way do I plan on buying more of these now. I also rigged up just a couple other funky ways that I need to, I've got so many different things rigged up that I need to try, but I rigged up just this. I had a very little Colorado to the back. I haven't even thrown this yet to see if it's got any kind of anything to it at all. It may just be a total fluke. I just wanted to rig one up and try it. Little kind of smaller Colorado's, a double Colorado, to give it a shot. I also have, where are they at? I haven't rigged up too many different things, but just to try some crazy things, and they were cheap. They had like a bin at Rogers. Now I've used some on other things, but I still have a few left. I just bought a couple various sizes. They were like $1/4 a piece or whatever. What is the name on those? Booyah. Well, they're the same thing, but one actually says Booyah. It's upside down. The other one is unmarked, and then just this crazy blade. Now they're overkill for these sizes I have, but you know, a big full size one, you just want to change up to. So like if you were early morning, just a single blade only instead of a big Colorado, this is sort of a variation of like that kind of thing. And I've got some smaller ones. I don't know if I have any still rigged up or not. I guess not. I don't know. I've tried, you know, I kind of just started experimenting with spinner baits. I do it every so many years. I just try to talk. I'm basically trying to talk myself back into spinner baits, but I end up just getting to a point where I mainly throw chatterbaits just because I have more confidence in them. like I mentioned, other than this style with those Indiana blades in that color. This probably would be next in that color. For some reason, that bluegill color just works on these places I've been fishing. But then, where's that other? There's also another spinnerbait, but I think I may be out of those. I know I'd rigged up a couple other. Oh, well, I got one left for sure here. I kind of like these too. This is also not a bad one here. Those, I can't even think of the name of them now. Are they Booyah from, they got the Hildebrandt blade. So that's like a double Indiana. Oh, what he name? You know, you guys know what he name. I can't even think of his name right now. Oh, shoot. Falcon Rods. Jason Christie. So, yeah, they got like this little thing on the side. So I'd had a few different ones. And this one, I remember, these aren't bad either. Well, all of them are probably all right. But for the way I fish, that's another thing I was going to talk about. Depending on how you fish, some baits may be horrible for you. Now, you can get confidence in a lot of different stuff, but just some baits aren't going to work for everybody. Just like some rods, you're like, you know, so-and-so's fishing this, and they're using that, and you're like, dude, I've tried those, they suck. So, the rod deal, let's jump on that. You guys, anybody know for sure what the deal is with the, what's the name of that company? Firetail or whatever that Rick Klein's associated with, that's putting out the new Trickster. They make those Firetail cranks that I throw away all my packaging as fast as I get it. Otherwise, I'd have the name of it. The made around here is excellent. And yeah, everything gets thrown away. So let's talk about rods and what you would need, or how. Like, do you guys go out and practice, or you just wing it? For me, I just wing it and I go out and practice. But we'll talk about this rod since I got back out on the water with it, and the reel kind of let me down. So I'm still waiting to actually go out and put much time at all back with my Poison Journal, which is my favorite rod, more or less, because I bought a whole other one. I got a brand new one over there. It was on sale for $250, so I paid full price for this one, bought another one for $250, so I have a spare, and I'll leave it out there. But actually, the rod that would probably be my best pick to go out and do everything, because it is sensitive enough. I can do some bottom contact if I wanted to go throw a jig, or kind of almost jig one of these along the bottom, chatterbait, rattle trap. I could throw, let me see. Yeah, I could throw my square bills on this, no problem. I was wondering if I could double check, and I could even get by with the little square bills, the 1.0 ATVs. It's not the optimum rod for a lot of stuff. 611 medium plus, for those of you that don't know exactly what I'm talking about. Versatile. So when I first, I don't know for how many years, I would literally go buy, spend not any kind of big money, but just spend a little bit of money to get like a decent, what I felt at the time, Berkeley lightning rods, decent rod, and put some kind of reel with it or whatever. And I fished, basically it was my half-ounce rod, right? So I had a bait caster for my half-ounce stuff, and I had some spinning stuff for just whatever else. Half-ounce and then down. I didn't really hardly throw anything over a half-ounce, but, there's like pretty much every bait's made in half-ounce, really. So when you're dealing with different hooks, of course, you're going to have a different, just like you work a bait differently, you end up, a different hook set. You can kind of get into where you're just kind of pulling, like you kind of pull, almost like, or what you call, you lean into it, you kind of pull and then give it an extra little, whop right towards the end is what you really need to do with chatterbaits. Some baits, you like the crazy jig hook set that people all have nowadays from Gerald Swindle, Greg Hackney, and all of that crazy, let them have it and yank to the moon and all that. That's literally that kind of stuff. I don't know. It kind of popped in. I can't even remember how many years ago before you just started watching guys do that, like on TV, and then everybody started copying it. And then, of course, everybody had to have rods that, first of all, wouldn't snap with like 50-pound braid, and you yank them hard as you want. And then you could start boat flipping bass and all that. But like that wasn't a thing back in the early days. Like, first of all, braid, I fished before braid was even a thing. I fished before, well, a lot of stuff were even a thing. I mean, yeah, they had boats made out of fiberglass. Like we weren't in wooden boats and sails. Like they had electric motors. I'm not that old, but you just kind of went fishing with your rod and reel. Almost like some guys, like now may go fly fishing with a 3-weight or a 5-weight, and they throw a lot of different stuff, or spinning rod. Like I'm kind of to the point now where I've got 6-8 rods, and I like this one for this and this, a couple things, but I like them to all cross around. And technically, I may be limited to a certain weight in the very small stuff, but really, like my BFS stuff. There's certain rods I have, there's no way I could go fishing with that. I mean, I could, like as a challenge type deal, but definitely wouldn't even be really fun. But for most of the stuff I'm fishing, most of the rods I have, I can go get the job done. Like on the small end, I've got my, 2-power Loomis that, yes, it's not going to be, for any of these bigger single hook blade, the big blade, the regular originals, and a lot of my jigs type stuff. But for some of the smaller Texas rigged hooks, to most of the hard baits I have, it could do that. And then also on the other extreme, I've got a couple of my heavy action rods, like the Dobbins 704, maybe limited on how small of little cranks I could throw, and then of course the Tequila Baccarat. But most of this stuff can be done with, one rod and reel. So if you're that guy, and this is just for the person that like, what do I do if I want to go? And this is all kind of goes into, because I did the little bank fishing video. I don't like fishing from the bank, I'll be honest. I've done it for years. When it's the only way I can really get out there, I mean, I'll still do it. Like I prefer that over not fishing, but I like to be in a boat. But the ultimate way to go bank fishing is just have one rod and reel you're carrying around instead of switching back and forth. You can do it. It's kind of like, set this down, walk a little ways. It's so good when you just go with one rod and reel, and you got your little fanny pack or, whatever, a little mini backpack or whatever you have. Something you could strap over your shoulder or carry along with you, and you can just keep moving, covering water, stop every so often, switch a bait around or whatever. So if and when you're doing that, your best bet is to kind of go more so than really with weight, roughly weights, is to kind of stick with baits that have roughly the same almost hook size in a way. So you can get away with throwing a lot of different size spinnerbaits and chatterbaits as far as what the weights may be, but you got to kind of watch your hook. So if you were wanting to go throw the minimaxes around, you might want to stick with the smaller, 3/8 jigs or the more compact finesse jigs. If you're wanting to throw, you want to go big fish hunting, I mean, you can still do it with any of the standard size or the big blades, and then stick with your, your bigger, like flipping fluoro jigs, the bigger 1/2 ounce structure jigs, the dirty jigs 1/2 ounce, not the compact, so still a regular size hook. You could even take your 3/4 ounce rattle traps, the ones with the bigger hooks, because those bigger trebles, you can still get away with a little stouter rod, and you probably, run a medium heavy rod and cover all that. But you could also go on the finesse side of it, carry around some, and you could also throw like a drop shot or a shaky head. You're just going to need to have maybe a touch heavier weight along with a little stouter hook. But then you could also go the opposite way And you could start here where this is your thickest thing you're carrying, is like, say, a 3/8 ounce, these knockoffs, or a jackhammer. You're not going to throw the big blade, the Z-Man originals, or any of the bigger hooked chatterbaits, spinnerbaits. And you could get by with some of them, like little finesse Z-Man spinnerbaits I just showed you, the little mini maxes. You could grab you. Then you could pretty much be throwing the small square bills, the 1/2 ounce. You probably still get away with the 3/8 ounce, or sorry, 3/4 ounce rattle traps, down to the point, or the size 1 to probably even the 1.5s, maybe the 2.0s. And by the way, you could also probably get away with some 2.5, some of the bigger cranks, and just get a rod. The trick there is, if you can get it, is find one that's kind of a more parabolic. If you can't, and it's just a fast or extra fast, you're kind of limited once you get into treble hook baits. But you can, kind of do that and basically build you a little carry around box built off more or less your hook size. So, and it's pretty easy. I'll show you by showing you we'll go off rattle traps. Now, jerk baits, if you're going to do that with jerk baits, you would want to definitely have on the small end, you could probably get by with a so on the littler stuff, you could buy probably a good medium action rod, honestly. So probably, like, I feel that this rod right here, the one that also I don't get out that much, the X Prize 610 medium, that's also good for jerk baits and stuff like that, would be awesome for 1/2 ounce rattle traps. It's gonna get the job done on these. But with the minute you're going into just a standard size chatterbait, you're going to do that sweep, and you're going to pull, lean into it, pull it. But towards the end, when you do give it that pop, you're going to want to yank just like maybe a little bit harder if you're dealing with the medium. Like me, I have my drag set and all that, so I'm not worried about snapping anything. But the X Prize 610 medium can also handle that smaller stuff. You're kind of on a load, though, when you get to, and so I was going to try to show you just by comparing. Let me get these out of the way. So if I'm throwing medium heavy, like say on, well, pretty much any medium heavy rod, when you get into these rattle traps, and what are you doing over there? You're going to go, so this is the 3/4, and this isn't 3/4. So this is 1/2 ounce. Wait a minute, what do I got going on here? Hang on. So I'm just going to show you the difference in size. So there's not a lot of difference, but that is a lot, honestly, bigger, stouter hook. Once you get into a 3/4 ounce bait, or the 2.5 square bill type thing, to a 1.0 or the 1/2 ounce, so you can get by. A medium action can get the job done with almost all of your real small square bills, or like the 1/2 ounce or smaller little rattle trap kind of things. But then once you get into 3/4 or like the 2.5s, honestly, the medium heavy with the bigger ones would cover that. And then if you're throwing bottom bouncing stuff, you can stick with the standard stuff. But if you're going to go with that medium, you would want to go with if you can, throw like the mini maxes or the 3/8 ounce, the smaller chatterbaits. You could even get by with like this right here. This is the minis or the micros. Don't want to do none of the flashback stuff on regular gear, but throw all that kind of stuff. And then you could also throw your like standard finesse soft plastic stuff too on bottom, this compact finesse jigs, the small, even the TRD. Like, I wouldn't have a problem with worrying about most of the TRD heads with this medium action. X Pride here, I'm covering all that kind of stuff. Now, I don't have the need for that, right? Like, because when I do go to the bank fishing, I'm usually at a small enough area. I just bring all my stuff, and I'm kind of doing testings and that kind of thing. But if I was just going to go walking around, and I just got the new minimax type deal. Now, I could also use there's a lot of other options. Like my blade rod would be perfect for doing all this smaller stuff. You know, half ounce rattle traps, probably even half ounce jackhammers and smaller. But then say if all I had was my Super Destroyer, then I'm going big. I want the big blade. I want the Z-Man Originals. I want big jigs. I want at least this big of treble hooks before I can do it with the other stuff, but it's going to be a fine, like you almost have to get finessey and just not even really set the hook. You feel a bite, just kind of lean back and, start reeling and hope they stay on kind of thing with treble hooks with that, because the Super Destroyer is just a little too stout. It's a fairly, got a little parabolic to it, but it's pretty stout. Now, the luge, the Elite that I have, and even this luge right here would probably be better for like treble hook baits, this signature series, because it's Kevin Van Dam's jerkbait rod. So if I was going to just carry one around the bank fishing, would probably be either luge medium heavies, or in all honesty would probably be this guy, that 611 medium plus Poison Adrena, because I've already used it for chatterbaits. It's awesome. It definitely would need, it's going to, like the big blade and the Z-Man Original, I think it'll work fine. It's just in my opinion, I would want to really lay it to them. I would want to give them a hesitation, like a pull, make sure I felt the weight real good, and then just yank pretty good with. And I kind of do that even with my other rods, so it wouldn't be a lot different. So anyway, do you guys have any questions? Do you comprehend what I'm talking about? Like just what my mindset is when I'm, debating on what baits to throw. That's why a lot of times I don't really have a set. There's still certain baits that I have in my tackle box that I'll just pull it out and like, what did I throw? Do I have a favorite rod I throw this with? And a lot of them I don't. I just, will grab a bait. I guess let me try to find the example, because I already kind of know what I like to throw these with. I honestly like the Poison Adrena with all of these. It's my favorite rattle trap rod. You guys know the blade is my favorite for the standard, but honestly, once it comes to these bigger ones, I like those bigger. I like actually even like the Super Destroyer, the Keela Bacharach is kind of my favorite with the big blades. Oh, one thing I forgot about is like your swim bait. So then your swim bait to be the same thing. If you're gonna, say your favorite thing to throw is a 3/4 ounce rattle trap, then you would start building your other stuff to throw kind of size wise. So if your favorite thing to throw is a 3/4 ounce rattle trap and you're throwing it on a certain rod that you really love it for that, I would probably go with throwing, any of these would probably work, but you might be careful on the smaller stuff. But if your favorite thing is throwing smaller baits, but you're not throwing chatterbaits, you're like, oh, I just love my medium action, this or that, and I'm like, I would kind of like to throw some chatterbaits in the mix too, then I would recommend 3/8 and then down. The minimaxes would be a good option, whether the Evos, the regulars. I would actually prefer or recommend those. I wouldn't prefer them over the other ones, but I'd recommend these over even the cheaper minis, because they do have a little bit stouter hook, and I don't have an actual 1/4 ounce Z-Man Original out here, but it's kind of got a bigger hook too. But then if your favorite thing to throw, or maybe you just have a favorite rod and you're trying to figure out like, well, what am I doing wrong? Like, so let's just use a rod for example. Say if you have a heavy action rod, you love throwing jigs on it, but you're like, I want to use it for moving baits too. It's like I've paid a lot of money for it. It's very sensitive. And like, what can I do to get some, more usage out of it? And you're like, I've tried throwing chatterbaits and I can't get the hooks to stick on the chatterbait kind of thing. So you can help yourself out by getting the right rod, but if you just put time in and realize what's going on with the rod. So let's just use the Dobbins 704C, right? It's a pretty stout rod. I really got it to also maybe spinnerbait, like bigger stuff. But honestly, this rod is it's got some flex in it too. Now I haven't really tried it with chatterbaits yet. My plan is to do it, but I love it so far for jigs. So if I had a 704 Dobbins of any, length, or not a 704 of any Dobbins, but say a 4 power. So 744, 730, or 754, whatever that 4 power, I would go with all of your bigger single hooks and then the bigger treble hooked, hard baits. And then I would, on the treble hooks, just go with maybe not even set the hook. Like there's two things that's happening. If you're completely missing the fish, like you're feeling the weight and then they're gone, you either initially didn't set the hook hard enough or you're just ripping the bait completely out of their mouth. So lighter rod, less power, you didn't get a good enough hook set, a little too stout. It's the opposite. And you end up just ripping the bait out of their mouth, and sometimes you'll straighten the smaller hooks and you'll tell they're a little bent out or whatever. So then you just adjust to that. Adjust yourself to the bait you're using on that rod kind of thing. So yeah, you didn't want to go like entering a tournament or, just this is stuff you just, when you're in your spare time, you're out, on the water doing a little testing, practicing, that kind of stuff. And then some rods like me, I'll go out there, and the reason I pick some over the other, I may like the feel of one, like it just feels good, but then my hookup rate is like, it just sucks. Like I can't keep them pinned on this rod. So you can kind of adapt to that, but then you can also go, you know what? I'll just go try this rod. And then you try a different rod, and it's like, oh, sometimes it's like a magical difference. It's like it's so much easier on this rod. And then you end up liking it a lot. So, for example, my blade, it's my favorite to throw, this size and smaller. It's as long as it needs to be. I can whip it around. I can get like perfect aims, the action, the power, the hook set. It's like I don't have to try, and I get the job done. But I'll be honest, the still to this date, I feel just the best rod for hookup to land ratio for me has been, and a lot of you guys, if follow the channel, you know the exact one I'm going to talk about. It was a 6'9" medium heavy carbon light 2.0. That rod, like if I felt a hit and I felt the weight, I got it in. Like I didn't have to set the hook. I don't know how many times on that rod I got, I'd be not paying attention, and I just, for whatever reason, you just have that glitch in your system to where you didn't set the hook right, or you barely tugged, or you didn't tug at all. You just start reeling, and then you just get the fish in. Like if I felt the weight, and if I was throwing a chatterbait and I felt the weight of that fish, no matter how I set the hook, that fish came in. Other rods, even the blade I have now, like I occasionally, I'm like, I don't know what happened. Like I felt like I felt the initial hit, I pull, I feel the weight, and I give it what I thought was the right, amount of yank to it. And I mean, I still get I feel like I get most all of them in, but every once in a while you just have that one that, he comes off and you're like, ugh. And I felt like that was like impossible to do with that other rod. I probably should get it. The reason I didn't, the reason, if you guys remember, you can go back and watch the videos. I ended up with like 3 or 4 of those rods. As I used that rod, I felt it was dead when it came to bottom contact of any kind of use. So although it was perfect for that, for chatterbaits, I felt it was I'm not saying, like, I don't know, I wouldn't call it worthless, but honestly, almost worthless unless you were moving a chatterbait or probably a rattle trap or something. So once I got into some of these higher end ones, like take the Poison Adrena for example. I feel the Poison Adrena is probably just about as good as that Carbon Light. And it's going to sound funny, but I think it's a touch. I think what makes this better than the Carbon Light for an all around, the versatile part, just like what it says on the here, is that it is that extra touch is sensitive. I think what makes it not as good for chatterbaits as the Carbon Light is that it's more sensitive. I think it literally, once you get a sense of rod, that's when I talk about, like, you got to kind of get in feel with what your rod and stuff. I feel you have a more of a chance to pull it away from the fish before you should have, kind of thing. But I feel if I'm fishing with, that's why I'm trying to get most of my rods, if you've noticed, they're all a touch on the higher end side now. Like, I want them all to be sensitive. And I know some are more sensitive than the others, but I don't want any like dead sticks. I don't want any that are just to the point to where when I switch to one of these more sensitive rods, I'm overreacting on a hook set to where I think if I'm, fishing this, fishing the blade, fishing the NRX pluses on bottom with lighter stuff, hopefully I'm trying to also find that balance because I 100% believe that you can literally overreact your moving reaction type baits. Like if you just over, like a knee jerk reaction, you kind of have to know that the hit's gonna come, and when it does, just kind of lean in, feel the weight, and then it's all like one motion. You kind of like start to pull, you feel the weight, and then you continue on. Kind of the same thing with a frog fish, like a frog bite. People all talk about it, and I think they get the chatterbait kind of wrong and the frog bite also, because a lot of them, talk about, well, you got to... I want to feel any topwater hit. Buzz baits are the same way kind of thing. If you just yank on what your eye saw and what the sound, and you don't just wait to feel that bite, I'm not saying you're not going to get them, but the chances, your chances get less and less of getting that fish in unless you just give it that split second. Now, sometimes it's kind of if you don't feel anything in that second or so, he might be coming right at you. He's probably got it, and he's actually slacking you up as you go. So you can't give them long. You can't just wait to feel the bite. But you got to give it a second to let them do what they're doing. If they're going away from you, you'll feel them. If they're coming at you, then you'll realize that's when you got to start reeling up, and then you set the hook. And you set with the frog, that's when, if anything, on that all-out jerk kind of thing, like on a jig set, buzzbait, not so much. You kind of you're going to feel it. Just wait till you feel it. With the frog, what'll happen a lot of times, they'll knock the frog completely out of the way. It's not in their mouth. It's nowhere. It's still just sitting somewhere up on top, and you let them, like I've literally watched a bass jump, like he knocked the frog up. He's out of the water, but the frog's not in his mouth. He goes back in the water, and then he comes back up and sucks the frog back in. It's almost like some bass want to hit and stun or like kill their prey before then they inhale it, kind of thing. They want to stop it, and they want to inhale it to where they feel they're pulling it in like from the mouth, head on kind of thing. They don't want to try to eat it backwards, I guess. So it's that kind of same thing on a chatterbait hit. Oh my gosh, it's cat. So anyway, this thing's not bad. Now it's starting to get hot though. Well, I mean, it's not hot, but it's not as cold as it was. So, nobody's going to comment. Brew Tank must be gone. Eddie, Frank, all you guys, where you at? Everybody's probably getting ready to go out fishing. All right, let me finish my story about my fishing and why I haven't been out. The video you've already seen, the one you're going to see tomorrow, I got one dropping of me fishing the rod and reel combo I talked about, my favorite one. I'll show it to you. let's pull it out. It's already, these are all wrapped up, ready to go fishing, but my fishing didn't happen. It may happen tomorrow, but I'm not sure. So we already got it rigged up, ready to get out and test these minimaxes with the Evo minimax and all that. But we got the blade with the new Steez SVTW, and that is just a black sock cut off and turned inside out. It's about the best thing I've found to protect my reels. You can lose them and just go to Walmart, buy another six, a half dozen, or however they come in a pack, and it's cheapest way. Those other ones, I have some, but never fails. If I throw these in my boat somewhere, they're there. They may get wet or whatever, but they don't seem to blow out. I don't know how many of those other ones actually come with, like the Steez ones. You put them on, take them off, and then I don't know if they've blown out or what happens, but they tend to disappear like the boat eats them. Boat doesn't eat stinky socks. And then, you know, just the cheap more rod socks, covers, whatever you call them, that get these from AliExpress. I recommend if you're going to get these, if you don't already, at least get the ones that's got the little spandex stuff or whatever. Elastic, the stuff that spreads, pulls down, and you can clip it onto your reel handle, because I've had these blow out. That's actually what this thing you're seeing over here is for. When I got 4 of these, so I put them on my rods, I put them together, and then I wrap this around it so it won't blow off going down the road. Because I put these in the back of Charles's boat. I've lost a few over the, it was a year before, last year before, whatever. So anyway, we got our combos out. Oh, for those of you that haven't seen it, I got a funky combo to show you. Then I'm gonna have to end this video before long, because I've got to get something colder to drink, and probably that tastes better than that thing I'm drinking. I ain't gonna lie. Might just be a Diet Coke, but it'll be a cold, refreshing Diet Coke. So I'm gonna get to editing the footage. Me and Charles went out and they already tore them up last Sunday. The truck, in the video you've seen, I was out working, getting the truck worked on. That's why I was down where I was. I was going to go there in the morning and start putting together a few fishing videos. And then when they got there to work on my truck, it's got a fuel leak now. But my cousin was in the hospital yesterday. Well, and this morning he got released. But he said he ain't going to feel like working on it tomorrow. He's being a little bit of a wuss. But anyway, I'm just serious. I'm not serious about that, but yeah, he's jacked up. So I don't know. He may actually get out and tell me that, yeah, he can work on it tomorrow. It's just got a small fuel line. I mean, it could blow up and all that kind of stuff while I'm driving it, catch on fire. So I'm not going to drive it too far going fishing. I actually drove it down to fish with Charles down to Clinton, Missouri with the fuel leak last Sunday. But anyway, here, let's look at this nasty combo. I'm still trying to make myself... I love the rod, love the reel. I'm trying to make them be together in a happy home here kind of situation. But it's kind of like forcing it. It's kind of like I need to send them to couples therapy and see what happens. So I keep changing around the color. And I don't know. It's lost its magic. This, with the Steez Limited, and even this handle, I thought and it was going good. I may have to go back to that. I tried that lose on it, and it wasn't bad, but it just wasn't right. I'd rather a Shimano and Daiwa thing together than have this reel on that Mega Bass. I just couldn't do it. Plus, I went back to this because I just, this is kind of a step down from my Lose Elite TI, but for all you losers out there, it's a pretty good setup. This just makes noise when you cast it. So, as you can tell, they're not loaded up and ready to go. Those are staying behind tomorrow, along with, if I go, along with... let me guess this dude. What? This dude's dirty. Look at this dude. This dude is also he's just kind of hanging out. 803, NRX Plus, jig worm rod, Steez Limited, shallow spool, custom knobs. I mean, this dude's just ready to go. Brand new. Just lightly, not really been fished, just been test casted around. But yeah, I'm just He's not going anywhere tomorrow. He's sitting here if I go. Tequila back rack's just sitting there. I've got both of my 802s, 802 Conquest, MBR, not 802 Conquest. It's the 780, whatever. It's the 6'6" Conquest MBR, and then the 6'8" NRX Plus Jig and Worm. It's going because those are the ones that I run 10-pound test on for any finesse shenanigans I want to get into. The Dobbins is going just because it's the one I'm going to play around with some different jigs. And then the other main characters are the ones I'm going to be doing some chatterbait testing. If you guys watched the other video the other night, I've got a bunch of these different micros, not micros, sorry. The mini, the minimax, the minimax Evo Elite, and actually just a 1/4 ounce Z-Man original, which is like this one. This is one of them. I got to put it back in there. This is just a mini, so it's a 1/4 ounce, but it's still got a small blade. A 1/4 ounce Z-Man original still has a bigger original blade. And that's kind of why I started tinkering. I'm like, well, what? Let's just start playing with some blade sizes to head sizes and see what that's all about. So it's going to be kind of Lord of the Flies if I go tomorrow. But I figured I'd take my small finesse stuff and my bigger jig rod, you know, just to have all the bases covered, like 5 rods, leaving technically 6 rods, but a couple of them don't have reels on them at the moment behind. So almost half my arsenal. Not like if I'm bank fishing and test casting, I took them all last week on that Saturday, but now I'm going to start not weeding all of them out, but I'm going to start limiting what I take when I take it. So I'll basically be taking rods that can handle the bigger stuff like we've talked about tonight. You know, I can take the bigger hook stuff, the bigger weighted stuff, and then other rods that can handle littler stuff. And then that way, if one goes down, like I've got 2 or possibly in some cases 3 that can do one and a couple that can do the other if I need to go there. Because most of these, you wouldn't want to, but you can throw them on 10-pound test if you need to. Like I can set the hook. That hook can be set on 10-pound test. You may be like, oh, dude, I don't want to do that. Yeah, it can. I've done it on probably 6 or 8-pound tests. So let me just show you this. For those of you that don't know the channel, a lot of you know, and you probably watch the videos. You can go check them out. Go search Klein 6'6". This rod right here is such a flexible, like a full flex, almost has this fiberglassy feel to it. It's a light, not an ultralight, but this Klein, I've thrown everything with it. I've set the hook on regular chatterbaits, the 120 whopper ploppers. I haven't like frog fishing, no. Probably this guy. I may have to do a challenge, see if I can actually set the hook on that. Like a Z-Man original, those, you know, the thicker 4/0s, the 5/0 hooks for sure, no. But like the smaller chatterbaits, the little spinnerbaits that aren't very, you know, roughly any bigger. This can handle, like, I know this rod. I fished it now for what, 5 years, 6 years? How long have I had the 661? Like, I just know this rod. My personal best largemouth bass came on it. It's, you know, it's a BFS combo, but I run it like with, you know, 10-pound braid to a 10-pound leader, and I can go down if I want to, but most fish aren't really leery of the 10. Most waters I fish aren't super clear, even the ones that are sort of clear, and the fish are dumb on the ones that are clear. So every once in a while, I carry 6-pound, but I really hardly ever have to go down to a 6-pound test. And it can handle a lot of different stuff. So knowing that, and I've done it that way over the years, I don't really feel like I'm out of shape if I say that 802, or sorry, 750. What is that anyway? Let me get this right out. I keep misnaming this one. Now, some of you will say no, but 782 MBR. 1/4 ounce to 5/8, 8 to 14-pound line. Now, it's a very soft, and it's being so short, 6'6", it feels like you don't have a lot of length there once that tip starts bending down. So they make it, you know, in all different lengths, but that 782 is a very capable, you know, even though I got 10 pound on it right now for finesse, like it, you know, once you just, it's one of those, like you're going to yank if you're using it for standard size bait. I love it for the 1.0 ATVs. It's like my favorite thing to throw those on it. It'll handle the half-ounce rattle traps. It'll handle, you know, a lot of stuff. These little dudes, awesome on it. It'll even handle like the. It'll probably minimax. I'll be trying it when I finally do hit the water. But it's a very good rod. All right, some of you finally jumped in. There's Nate. Yeah, wild turkey dude. Have I ever told my wild turkey story? I think I have. Order any of the mini jack? No, I will not be ordering any of those. Nate says he owns 3 of the 6'6" and 1 of the 6'2" Teton rods, thanks to me. Dude, them Tetons, they're still good. I had 3. What did I do with the 1? So I bought, the first one I ever bought, I bought the 6 foot, is it a 6'2" or 6'3"? Whatever the in-between one is. And it's definitely probably got the softest tip out of any I've had, but then it gets into backbone. The 522 SUL is just like a little micro version of the 6'6". So it's just this super ultra light, full flexy. The material, the blank material isn't fiberglass, but it's got that bend like what, a fiberglass, and it really does. It doesn't jump into backbone; it just bends. But you talk about a fun rod to catch anything on. And then I think it was 6'3", 6'32" is what I think the first one I had was. And it was all right, but it was probably my least favorite. But it would go and do anything any of these other ones would. There's things that the 522 won't do that the 6'6" will, and there's some things the 6'6" won't do because that 522 is just capable of throwing a lighter bait. But it's also the Teton, the 6'6" just doesn't have soft enough tip. Now, if you've got the 2-piece 6'6", yours may have a softer tip. Mine does not have a soft. It's got the whole rod has like the same softness throughout the whole thing. They're different. Charles has the other one, so it is definitely different. But yeah, I guess I can. I don't know how much longer this video needs to go, but I will not be buying. I probably won't be buying any more of these. I just want this was to get to see what my thoughts and tests and all that. Now, if I get out here, whether it be on the Evo mini maxes, the regular mini maxes, and I really start, you know, feel that these, I don't think I will, but are better for some reason. The up at Rogers, the mini max is $7.99. I mean, it doesn't sound much cheaper, but $2 cheaper than the Evos. The regular Evo you can get, or I bought of what, 3 or 4 of them because they're on sale for, you know, $7. The jackhammers like never go on sale. And even when they're due, they're still like over $10, right? And I've already done the test. I did the test years ago. You guys can go back and look. I did it on the channel, compared it to the OG original. And it's before these, you know, EVOs came out. And I can tell you right now, like if I just didn't want to, like Charlie, I don't want to buy knockoffs, right? Then don't buy knockoffs. Charlie, I don't want the Z-Man originals or the big blades. The hook's too big and I just don't like that. I feel this is a better bait, the Evo, than the jackhammer, just in my opinion. But I'll be honest. The only thing I like about these better than the knockoffs, I do like this. That style of hook keeper for, I just like that. But I'm going to be very honest here, and you'll see, you're getting ready to see next, maybe tomorrow night, but Monday for sure, you're going to see my favorite bait, because this right here, I'll show it to you, because I ordered a whole shoot load of them. That is the Niobe's knockoffs of the jackhammers. If you guys remember, I did that little test on accident. I didn't mean to, and I hooked into that stump and yank to where I actually kinked the blade slightly. It was easy to just bend back, and it didn't bend out that or anything. I mean, I had basically the strength of 20-pound test plus, and it nothing gave. Like, so it straightened the hook somewhat, but I just kinked it back down, and then proceeded to catch more fish. Just kept catching fish with it, and then I went Sunday and snagged it again way down deep and ended up breaking it off. Don't throw them around brush. But anyway, these Niobe baits, I've got, I think, 4 in the spot remover color, 3 more coming. I wanted to have like 4 of the 3/8 in the bluegill color. Well, it's actually a fire tiger that I'm going to turn into bluegill colors. I got 4 of those total coming in 3/8. I've also got 1 of every color they make. I've never done that with any chatterbait brand, even the Z-Man Originals, the Minimaxes, the big blades, even any other knockoffs from Alex. I've never just ordered 1 of every color that they make. And I did that with these Niobes. There's like 9 different colors. They're all coming. And then I went back and I ordered to make sure I had 4 of each of the 3/8. I ordered 2 of their 10.5 grams, they call it. Then I ordered 2 of each of the 14 grams so I got 2 spot removers in basically ½ ounce coming, and then 2 of the fire tigers that I'm going to turn into bluegills. But these baits, and they're $2.50 each. So when you order that many a time, it gets free shipping, $2.50 each. You can't beat them. If for some reason, like, oh, this doesn't hold up and the skirt falls off, just put one of the Dirty Jigs or whatever skirt materials. Dirty Jigs has some pretty good, like, spot remover type colors or bluegill colors or whatever. I'm sure the paint won't hold up maybe quite as well. The blades are just, I mean, they're just blades, and they instantly start up, just like a jackhammer. But honestly, these are fine too. These Jackie Hammer style ones were the first ones to come out. These are just recently in the last maybe year or so. They're definitely a little different. They've got actually a little bit smaller head for they weigh just a touch lighter. So like the lightest Jackie Hammer you can get is a touch heavier than the lightest one of these. They call them all like 10 grams. They're slightly different, but this just has a little bit better, I don't know, cleaner, more refined look, in my opinion. These, though, still have that good, and that one's kind of old and beat up. I've used it for probably a whole season off and on. This one's almost like a brand new one. These still look good. The paint looks good. I mean, yeah, they all sort of get a little beat up after using them, but they only, in my opinion, the bite gets better. Now, the only downside to these, it's not really a downside. I wish everything just came. I like that. You just, and then it kind of holds it on. The next best is this, where it just has one on one side. So I like these also. They're okay on the Jackie Hammer ones. But if you know the trailer you're putting on and you just put on, leave it. So these have the dual ones just like the jackhammers. So there's a little notch up here and up here. So once I take this off, it's just going to rip it. There's no getting it off. With the other ones, I can't even remember now. These just have the keeper up here, which I like it too. They just have like the, yeah, so I'm not going to pull it. These are all ready to be fished. I'm going to leave them alone for right now. I don't want to tear up I don't want to tear any luck out of them. But yeah, as far as hook keepers go, that's like the big thing. The only downside, and I still don't know if it's a downside, I just know it's different. Where's my other one? And I've got them. Oh yeah, I do have 2 more of these guys coming. Is those Evos have the heads just kind of like these other ones we found on AliExpress. They're narrower. They cut out the eye sockets like quite a bit. And this is a smaller head. It's not tungsten or nothing. But as you can see, this is a whole different. I've never seen anything like this come from AliExpress. I got 2 in this color, so I ordered 2 more to see if they are consistently coming like that. They look cool. They may even look cooler, but I don't know if they work as well. I don't know how well this blade hits on that. They feel the same. Like, I can't really tell the difference, but I can't tell the difference between the Z-Man original, this. The only ones I can tell the difference between the minimax, the big blade, to these. I can tell a difference between these and the Z-Man original. All, in my opinion, feel the same. 1/2 ounce, 3 ounce, they have the same thump. They do thump different than a Thunder Cricket. Not by a lot, but I feel a Thunder Cricket has a softer thump. And I think it may be due to the fact that they're not attached as solid. So could that be possibly a good thing under certain conditions? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I haven't fished a Thunder Cricket enough, but like this is a bigger one I got. So I do have a few heavier baits for those days where I may want to get, either I want to go faster or I just want to go that same slow pace and get down deeper. But the Thunder Cricket is literally, that moves. So that extra little right there is going to have some sort of effect. I think between that and the blades cut a little different. It just has, it doesn't thunder as much as you think it would, right? It doesn't have as much of a chatter as the Z-Man original, the knockoff Jackie Hammers, the Jack Hammers, or the Evos. So, any other questions? What from AliExpress? You talking about the knockoffs? Yes, everything I own came from Bass Pro Shops, Tackle Warehouse, Rogers Sporting Goods, Discount Tackle, or AliExpress. I don't deal with Temu. I'd have ordered from, oh shoot, who's got the Guggenbait things? I have ordered from them before. I ordered all those freaking disaster of the Guggen buzz baits. I ended up, they sent me my money back and sent me a whole nother order and then I kept the other order that, you know, they didn't want it back because they were the Chatterbaits. The buzz baits they were literally not right. If you guys, I've got videos on it, but it was insane. So anyway, I ended up with a whole bunch of buzz baits that I had to tweak, and you still have to. They don't run true. You can tweak them and then get them to go pretty good, and they still catch fish. But you guys know what I'm talking about when a buzz bait, like it's got a little pull, and it's like they were put into the mold. The mold was a little off to where the hook lined up with the shaft a little wrong, and it just like they're tweaked. But that was around the time we were fishing with Matt, and that insane topwater bite was on. And I had a bunch of buzz baits, but they were all tweaked out of whack. So, any other questions? Let's look at them buzz baits. I brought it up. You guys don't want to see them, if you don't believe me. And I'm not even a big buzz bait fisherman. I sort of almost got completely away from them because I like, I'll be honest, I like throwing and the whopper plopper. If I'm slow, picking out a little spot, like working right by a dock, you know, up in the corner where the dock meets the bank and all those tight spots, I want to do the popper. And then when I'm, just going along covering water and like along the edges of the docks and stuff, not just docks, I don't hardly ever fish docks, but like a lay downs or just whatever, where I would normally use a buzz bait, I'll throw the whopper plopper, and then whopper ploppers don't like wood. Keep them away from wood, and then that's when I go with the other stuff. Or throw a frog also, like throw a frog up in there. But buzz baits, I keep forgetting, they are the topwater spinnerbait. That's really what they are. So anyway, as you can tell, I've got all these are the bluegill colored Guggen. Not because this is my favorite. It's my favorite style, but they shipped me so many that's what I got. And then here's all like my original stuff. And then I did also get some different blades, and I was kind of working on my own customs here, but I don't know if I should dig all that out. I was going to try to find where's my favorite? I'll tell you a quick story. Now this isn't it. This is just one I rigged up, and honestly I probably need to throw it in the trash because it's funky. So I got a couple here. This one, I don't know how we got off on buzz baits, but when you're drinking Smirnoffs, you just go places you didn't know you would go, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. This bait, and I should have left it alone. I'd probably need to rip that off and put a different skirt on it. Just old school, right? This came from Steve. He passed away, and his wife sold me all of his tackle. I picked out all the stuff I wanted, and then I took it down to the country, gave the rest of it to my family or whatever, and let them fight over it. They're still fighting over it. But anyway, we rigged. I cut this off. It had like it was almost like a finesse tie done with a little bit of green, chartreuse, and white, and it had a flare, like so you'd be pulling it or whatever. And I don't know why. I got to a point where I felt like I just didn't need that on there. And it's got a hint of rust showing, but this thing still is like a hook sharper than snot and catches fish. The trick, to my opinion, on a buzzbait, for those of you that don't know, this is the best. This is the original style, right? Especially the ones that got the patent number right on the blade. They came out. The shaft goes through right in the middle, and then it goes here and here. Now, I know what you're saying, and you're right. There's all kinds of buzzbaits, and a lot of them catch fish. They got plastic blades. They've got double ones and all those. I'm just telling you, I still am the OG. This right here. The main trick that when the other one stopped working and this one just is killing it is because of this right here. You have this crimped. If it's not crimped, you crimp it. And then the connection. This is the one where the guys are tying them on the antennas and you're running them to get it to hear that squeaky. That's what you want. So that is the ideal buzz bait for me. Doesn't really make a huge deal. This one actually was working good when it had that little bit of white flare to it. And then normally, I'm not a black buzzbait dude. I'll be honest. I am a little prejudiced when it comes to what colors I throw on my buzzbaits. Because for years, well, I used to be, I put it that way. For years, it was chartreuse and white. That's just what I throw. Like chartreuse and white buzzbaits caught my fish. Even in bass and bonsai era, I was fishing with bonsai guy, tearing them up on a chartreuse and white buzzbait. Went fishing with Matt, and he was tearing them up, and I should have known, and I didn't own any at the time, a black and blue buzzbait. And I give Guggen that fact. They got a black and blue, a gold blade, right? I should love this, and it does. It tears them up. The problem was when I was ordering them, and you can even see in this one right now, everything's out of whack. And so you got to get out on the water, and if you guys don't know how to, I don't even remember. Like, I got to get out on the water and get myself in tune with it. But this one's caught a bunch of fish because it's missing an eye. But you end up having to tweak to get it to just, when you're pulling it, go straight. So you're reeling it to you, and it just wants to either, veer off one way or the other. And what happens is you can only go so fast, and it starts wanting to do this running up and down shit. Did I just cuss? I got mad about it. And I was so mad. That popped in my head of how these were running. So anyway, I've tweaked on them. I think this one, actually, you're looking at it and you're like, dude, that is horrible. You see how tweaked that is? But I'm telling you, I think, now it may have changed from being in the box. I was having to bend these to these crazy proportions, but then you throw it out there, and when you reel it, it comes straight at you. It's the weirdest thing. It was somehow, they've got these, it's hard to say and show you here, but when they put these in the mold, they got them tweaked out of whack. And maybe these may, and that's the thing about these have just been the worst ones I've ever had as far as buzzbaits to run true. So another story, now this isn't it, but I think these come from Booyah. This thing, I admit, it looks horribly nasty, and it probably doesn't catch fish. It probably needs to stay out. I don't even know why it's got it in there. But that basic concept is what made me end up with getting these, because Charles shows up. I can't remember what he had, but had that color. I think it was a buzzbait. It was a buzzbait or a spinnerbait. Man, he started flat out catching them. And I tracked it down. Guess what? AliExpress makes this bait. And these, I feel there's just a time and place when these will catch you fish in this color when most chatterbaits just won't. And I can't explain what they think that is. But that is a good color for just when you're like, oh man, I don't seem to. I think they should be hitting chatterbaits, but they're not. Throw that. Put just whatever trailer you want. Probably something a little bit of white to it is what I would recommend. I mean, you could go, chartreusey or whatever, but I just usually put one of these white. I don't have one here, but just kind of a white swim baity type thing or whatever you want to put on it, and that thing just catches fish. But anyway, the buzz baits. So the Guggen had the right idea, and I think they only make the 3 colors. I don't really care for the white ones with the pink as much, but when I originally ordered them, I ordered so many, and you would think that this color would be pretty good too. But honestly, out of the 3, this one was, well, in the brief, season we were fishing them, this color flat tore them up. We could catch them on the white, and it was the next best. And if for some reason this color just was not very good. And the more I'm looking at it now, I think every bit of that white needs to completely come out. I think, honestly, ripping the white out and changing it, or maybe getting a orange Sharpie of some kind and painting them orange, because that color does not. And I have these also 3/8 and 1/2 ounce. So, and they do work. You just got to get out there and you got to cast them in a reel. And if they're coming this way, you got to tweak bend the blade a little bit until you get them running about as true as you can. And then they squeak, they do all the stuff that they're supposed to do, and they work pretty good. But anyway. Listen, wait a minute. I can't even. Let me take a drink of my Smirnoff Ice Pink lemonade, because I don't believe you. Oh, wait. I may as well get it going. If you just joined the show, I was testing that out versus this. And if you guys comment, if you've ever tried these Happy Thursdays and you were happy about it, especially on a Friday, because I'm taking one more drink. Oh my God. That thing's horrible. I mean, it's literally, it says non-carbonated. Oh, I can tell you didn't need to bother to write it on the package. It does contain alcohol. It's the only good thing it's got going for it. Bubble free. That's why. Bubble free. What in the non-carbonated, bubble-free Happy Thursday shenanigans is going on here? But anyway, I just read something that I don't even believe that Nate wrote. And yeah, Lake Ratatouille, nothing worse than an untrue bait. I agree, especially, here's the thing. Some baits you can kind of true up, and then they're good. And then you can catch fish, and they seem to hold it. Then there's other baits you might as well throw out of your tackle box. You'll get them, and they don't run true out of the package, and you just, you tweak it, and you're like, man, that thing's running true as can be. And you throw it out, and you catch like a pound bass, and you throw it back out again, and it's untrue again. Don't even any further. Just get rid of that bait. I don't know, maybe package it up, post-date it, put down Mike Iaconelli's address, send it to him, let him put it in Ike's garage and do something with it. I don't know what to tell you, but yeah, I'm with you. The baits and maybe one of the reasons why I like a chatterbait so well. Chatterbaits just run. Like they don't really, there's no way to, I should knock on wood. Hang on, I got some wood. Maybe there's a way to possibly make them run, not true, but chatterbaits, they go. Like I've literally put trailers on them all screwed up in a hurry and cast it out, not even paying attention, make a few casts, catch a fish, take it off, and then, at some point I'm realizing I look at the trailer, I'm like, holy cow, how's that thing even run? Like, I got it on all screwy kind of thing. Even spinnerbaits you can get kind of squirrely, you catch a few fish and they get pulled and you got to, kind of tweak on them, but I'm kind of used to that. And they're pretty simple. They're pretty much just get them bent in line. It doesn't really, up and down doesn't really matter. to running true as much as just get them straight in that line. They run true. These buzz baits, I'm telling you, these Guggen buzz baits, when you get everything where it looks like it's straight, they're completely off. You gotta tweak them to where they look screwed up. They'll look like there's no way that's gonna run true, and it'll run true. It's the weirdest thing. But they seem to hold that, like, so once I got one, we could catch multiple fish, so that's why they're still in the box. But let me read this what Nate says. I've caught absolutely, and in all caps, 0 fish on buzzbaits in my entire life. I don't know how old you are, Nate, but you're doing something wrong, buddy. Frogs, yes. Jackal Pompadour Jr. is awesome, but never a single fish on a buzzbait. Bro, you're fishing it wrong. Because a buzzbait is honestly, well, and maybe the wrong times, it's the easiest bait in the world to catch them on. So here's the trick. Here's a buzzbait trick. Best time, period, for a buzzbait is what I call the magical hours, right? Just like if you guys ever watched that Dragon movie with Andrew... hang on a second. Who is it? Matthew McConaughey and Christian Bale. Right? The buzz baits, honestly, it's a nighttime bait. Like if you want to go fishing at night, throw a buzz bait and just wait. So when you're fishing a buzz bait, make the cast, start reeling as soon as it hits the water. So then close your eyes. You don't want to see the hit. You're going to be... So I don't know if you're telling me you don't get them in or they don't hit it, but they will hit a buzz bait. But the trick is getting them in with the buzz bait, because most people, just like a frog, is the minute that you yank, and you're yanking it right out of their mouth, because they were just starting to do their thing on it. But where I've had my best luck on buzz baits are as it's starting to get dark. As soon as them, shadows get long, and that sun starts going down, or early morning, it's still dark or whatever. A lot of guys just fish them at night, and I've gone at night, like when we were stocking my cousin's pond, we would go, because it was the easiest way to do them. You could catch big fish. Like, no need in fishing the ponds that we were going to, because, we were going to catch these fish out of some of these other smaller ponds and put them in his pond. No need to go mess with it during the day. Just wait till the sun went down. Go out there, cast these buzz baits along the bank, and start reeling. And you didn't even need to see it. You just heard the whoosh. Don't do anything. You'll feel it. And then, yank, reel in. 3 to 5 pounders. It was almost like clockwork. We're throwing them in 5-gallon buckets with a battery-operated aerator. And then just, like, we'd literally go to a place, catch one fish, throw it in a bucket, with that pond water, drive, dump it in his pond, go to another pond. This is out in the country. And we caught, I don't know how many at night. Now, I don't really like night fish. As soon as especially since I started making videos, as soon as it starts getting dark, I'm like, dude, we need to wrap it up, because you can't see nothing. It doesn't come out on video. But where I like buzz baits is honestly just to cover water is the main thing. But then here's where a buzzbait beats whopper, plopper, any trebled hook bait. So a buzzbait I would put it to where if you teach yourself, now you may have a mess up here or there, and then you're kind of screwed. But if you can teach yourself to cast this bait, and right as it's hitting the water, you're already reeling. You've already put your thumb on the spool, stop the spool, kind of as the bait's coming in, and then you start reeling. You can throw this right on top of the craziest amount of stuff, and then just start it working across, almost like you would a frog. It won't go nowhere near like where a frog will, but not far from it. It's the next best bait is a buzz bait, even over a spinnerbait or anything like that. And that's when you can have a lot of big fish. Like if you can manage to find little narrow areas where, like, I just need to get it started, I'm going to cast it there. And if I'm a little off from the little area I need to hit, so what I would do is like literally throw it either past or even on the bank, like hit the bank, but start reeling right as I hit the bank, hit the ground. Just have it already reeling, so it's like this, and it's not going to dig in. And then just run it across that open hole kind of thing, like that, or the edges of, the gnarliest stuff, to where you'd be afraid to throw a whopper plopper because the trebles are going to get gunk, or right around wood. I don't really have an issue with throwing this around wood because I'm going to be on the surface, and then as soon as I hit it, I'm going to set the hook and get them in. A whopper plopper is horrible. The bigger the whopper plopper, the worse it gets. You throw a whopper plopper, in my opinion, around a dock, you're probably going to lose that fish, because if it's a big one. I don't know how many big fish, and I say big, but it could be a 2-pounder. But a fish that a full-size whopper plopper, he may only get half of it, and, one of the hooks is out of his mouth. Them whopper plopper hooks just are so big that if he gets down around anything to try to run and hide, that hook, it sticks that. And then it's not even the fact I'm going to miss that fish. I can only imagine how bad he messes his mouth up, because it instantly stops, and then he shakes himself off of it there, and there's usually not a fish there. So I try not to fish the whopper plopper like too close to, like right along. I don't try to run it right along the edge of, wooden dock posts or stuff. Like if I see a floating dock, with those black, whatever they are, and there's not wood, like no problem there. But I try to keep, I'll throw oh shoot. I don't have a problem throwing my poppers, right? Like the Pop Max or whatever around kind of close. They're not near as big of hooks. And usually one of them hits that, they kind of inhale the whole thing, especially the bigger the bass, more chance he has of taking the whole, even it's not a real big popper, even though it's called the Pop Max. But the whopper plopper, not so much. But a buzzbait, I like throwing that around anywhere. It's just like kind of like a spinnerbait. No, chatterbait, no. But a buzzbait and a spinnerbait, I can kind of throw around more gnarly stuff. And the trick to these, in my opinion, it's probably one of the only baits that I just get it. I hit the water with it, hit the water running is what I call it, right? Just you're already reeling. And then I go as slow as I can go and just keep the bait, just keep it. I want it gurgling on top, like leaving a trail, maybe a bubble trail or whatever, but just that, and you get that, you'll hear it. So like I talked about with spinnerbaits, right? You'll just feel it in a spinnerbait. You'll get that speed and you'll feel it. It's doing its, that's why I like a sensitive rod for spinnerbaits. A lot of people don't even care. They whatever. Same thing with chatterbaits. I feel I can get that feel where it's making that certain thump, just, and I'm like, okay, right there's a sweet spot, and I want to go at that speed. And then I might pop it or do whatever, but then I want to find that speed again. A buzzbait's the same way. You'll hear that squeak. It sounds its most intense at a certain speed. It's not just whining as fast as you can, and it's going slow, but not as slow as you can. You usually can end up going slower, and you can always put something like a swim bait tail or something to let it go if you feel like you need to go slower, and it'll let it ride up a little bit more. You can also cast it a little further with a little more weight, but then it'll also any kind of resistance will let it ride a little higher at a slower pace if you feel you need to slow down. But these don't squeak. Some of these don't anyway. You can see they're starting to, this one's starting, well, I thought you could see, yeah, see that? Starting to get worn in or whatever. There's just a certain speed, and you'll find it, you'll hear it. It's as loud as it can possibly sound, and that's the speed you want to run these at. I don't do any extra twitching or popping. I just find that speed, and I just work it back to the boat. I pick it up, cast again, parallel along the bank, out across the tops. If there's submerged anything, could be grass, could be along tree stumps, any of that, just throw it out and just make that squeaking noise. Boom, game on. You don't have to, this one, I feel you don't have to run anything on the back. Like I'll start out, I don't run anything. Then I may put some sort of trailer on the back. But yeah, buzzbaits. And I would recommend chartreuse and white. So I feel if they're gonna hit something, chartreuse and white, I'd probably have maybe one somewhere. And if you're, I mean, you can go small. I got some little ones too. These are, like BFS-y type stuff. Now, if you look at this one, it doesn't squeak or nothing yet, but I've definitely took the paint off to where it needs broke in still. But little BFS-y type ones, purple, black, and you can get cheap ones. I don't really do it anymore, but we used to tweak on the blades too. You can bend these blades around to make them do a little. Dude, that little dude doesn't look like much, but that sucker, there's times when those little bitty ones can just, now, usually not a little finessing one won't get a monster fish, but man, there's sometimes when the little dinks cannot leave these little dudes alone like this. Anyway, I guess if you guys don't have any questions. Dun, dun. Yeah. Nate, fish early morning. Sleep at night. Yeah. Game of Money says, I love me a good buzzbait. They're cheap and the same concept as overpriced whopper plopper. Oh, you like your buzzbait? That's just a thing in the last recent years. Honestly, I think it's better with the skirt. I think guys like them without, just for the fact they're skipping them under docks and stuff like that. But I still, to this day, prefer a skirted bait. Like, yeah, I mean, it's going to work. It's just like this. Like, you can fish a chatterbait, like the diesel, the diesel minnow, which is a chatterbait with just a thing. Same concept here. If you throw these and you're going to cut that skirt off, then yes, you're going to need to put like a toad or, a full profile, whatever. But I just feel, in my opinion, that skirt, they're seeing it just like, it's just below the surface. So they're just seeing it, catching a glimpse of it just like they would these are all literally bladed jigs, right? That's a jig, it's has all this to make it a buzz bait, just like this has all the extra change to make it, a spinner bait, and this just has a blade connected to the front to make it a chatterbait. And they call the ones that don't direct, bladed jigs, but they're all bladed jigs. They're all basically a jig. So when you're changing that, you're basically taking the jig and then you're just using it as a head. So you've got the buzzbait head, and then you're turning whatever. Are you trying to mimic the frogs or the whatever? So a lot of guys, they started, like, you can buy the ones with the toads and all that kind of stuff. But I thought about trying it because here's what I thought about trying it with. I thought about getting the zeman goat toads or whatever and rigging one up on one of these and just trying it. But I'm telling you, like, between this style of buzzbait, the whopper plopper, now the Chapo, you guys, some of you guys jump, oh man, the Chapo is way better. I did that comparison. You can go back and look for the footage. Just do Chapo versus whopper plopper, bass and bonsai, and you'll see that. I could not tell you that. I think the whopper plopper is just made way more durable than almost any other bait made. It's going to last you forever, literally. The Chapo, it's a good bait, works, catches fish, but I just can't knock the originals. I can't knock the original design of the buzz baits, and it was originally designed with the skirt. The original chatterbaits, I think, to catch the fishermen, they've doctored them up a little bit, and it's definitely a better blade. And I'll be honest, these knockoffs, I feel, for the money, plus you can get them cheaper than the originals. And maybe these are designed a little bit better and all that, but it's still, you can't beat the original. That thing still just flat out catch. They still sell them, always will sell them. Same thing with buzz baits. and some of the spinner baits. I don't know. Trivia question: I can't remember who is the original maker of the spinner bait. I'm sure it's one company started. Just the ones that pop in my head would be, well, Stanley pops in my head for jigs. I don't know who even was one of the big names back in the day, but I remember Lonnie Stanley and a lot of them guys were fishing the G3 Sportsman, all them. And then Meps made a lot of different spinners, and then whoever Hank Parker was with. But like spinner baits are one of those where there's just so many different combinations. But a buzz bait's kind of like that too. I mean, there's nothing saying that you need to have this kind of style. But as far as your comment on revolver knockoffs on Ellie, which one's a revolver? You already lost me. It sounds familiar, but I'm trying to put it to what you're talking about. Because you said revolver, I thought of gun tube. Revolver knockoffs. Trying to think. I don't know. You got me puzzled now on what a revolver is. But your comment about the fact that the same concept. Overpriced whopper ploppers. I used to kind of think that too with the whopper ploppers. And don't get me wrong, they could probably be cheaper, especially nowadays. They've made them forever and they've made a lot of money off of them. But the whopper plopper, it's like it doesn't wear out. I've talked about that before too. So I will show you, I guess, my. Do I want to get it out? This is my favorite color now. It's that one, the Tackle Warehouse one. That dude just flat tore him up the last time I used it. So I love that one, but it's only like a year or so old. But I'm telling you guys right now, the OG Whopper Plopper is still an awesome bait because you can change your speed. Like you can change a little bit. And the Whopper Plopper, in my opinion, is the same way. It's got a certain thumping sound to it. And the little ones are probably like, I don't know, I think there's just a time when they kind of want something bigger. But I like that size better. I don't like these dudes. And this may be a knockoff. But I don't like these guys. The fat ones, I don't like them. I got these all because I wanted this color. Charles was tearing me up when he had this color. So I bought all these little dudes. I'll be honest. This one for like BFS kind of stuff. But not as impressed. Like this size here is when I feel they do good. They just, because little dinks will tear these up and they'll catch a big fish. But whether you're dealing with the Chapo or the OG, roughly, and these got like rusted hooks, it still catches fish. So, little story. Let me move. I have really neglected all my topwater stuff. So I have a whole box just for buzz baits and then a kind of a topwater box. But, and I have it out because I have it in my day box. But my favorite, like, when it comes to poppers, man, those mega bass, I've only got like 3 now. Because also these, unless you lose them, they don't wear out either. The mega bass baits are definitely legit. But I wanted to show you this one and tell the story. Some of you guys already know the story. That's the first Whopper Plopper I ever bought. I guess it's big enough. I've always thrown it on big enough line. I just never lost it. I've never sharpened the hooks. I've never really even worried about it. I get it out and I throw it and it catches, however many fish whatever I'm doing that day, usually morning or evening kind of thing or area, and put it back up. Every hook point feels sharp. I've never had to tweak one of these hooks back in. They're just monster. Like, honestly, it's overkill. When I first got this bait, I'm like, this is way overkill for any kind of bass. Because we're here in the Midwest. We don't get giants like on any kind of regular basis. But this thing has done nothing but just pull in fish after fish when I do, you know, get it out. Now, this isn't my favorite color anymore. There was a time when this was just my favorite color. Since then, that one I just showed you is, but like this has gotten old and faded, actually darkened up or whatever, but it still just works. So although, what are they, like 15 bucks or whatever they cost, like I mean, I got to say, they're like worth the money in a way. You're not going to kill this bait. You may lose it, but you're not going to kill this bait. And, you know, it still does all its turning and all that kind of stuff. Now, some of these are older too. None of them are as old as this. This dude's pretty old too, probably 6, 8 years old. He's got some age on him. This one would be next, but he's, I don't even know if it's maybe 5. I don't know. It's older, but it's not near as old. That's the next oldest, I think. It's pretty old. It's pretty old too. It may be close to this age, but smaller one. And then that's a knockoff, and then these are just recent to get that color. That's an actual Whopper Plopper, but it's the next size down. And if you guys remember right, I got rid of it. I had the biggest one they make, which they make one bigger than this. Dude, those things are crazy nuts. But so this is what's this, a 130 or 120? This is a 110. These are 90s. I don't even know. I'm not familiar with my sizes anymore. So I think you got a 90. I thought it went to like a 90, a 1. Is it a 100 or 110, and then like a 1, whatever it is. 130, I thought. Anyway, that's my favorite size. The one I just showed you in the bluegill color is my favorite color, and that's the OG. And I don't buy many because you don't really need to, but I can't really tell you, oh, dude, they're not worth that much money when they last as long as they do, and they catch fish like they do. But I feel you need to also, there's a certain, and if you get out there and your blade gets bent, that's one thing that a Chapo may have. This is a little harder. I don't think this is going to get out as whacked as possible to get out of whack. So I noticed there's some of mine, the way I would store them, or you can get them out there when it gets hot or cold or whatever, they can get tweaked. So if you get out there and you're fishing at your varying speeds and you feel like it don't plop like it should, you can tweak on them. So, and it's not going to hold real well, but like you can push this thing all the way in, you know, like really twist it in, get so many casts in, and you'll feel it making a different sound plopping. And if it goes away, just, you know, every 5, 10 casts, crank it in if you feel that it got tweaked. Or if you feel it's plopping too much, you can, you know, pull it out. But these do have a crazy amount of movement that if you mess around and, you know, put them in a box and then it stays there, it's going to tweak it. So you may have to make that little tweak. But if you just put it somewhere, don't do like I do, have them all kind of squeezed in. If you put it in its own thing and it doesn't get tweaked, they do hold pretty good. But it's a simple little change to just that little, what I call the plopping sound. So anyway, I'm going to have to end this video. We almost got a 2-hour video going. Oh, the Revolver's Guggen's version of the Whopper Plopper. Yeah, I won't be messing with it. You ain't bass fishing if you ain't losing lures. Well, I know that, but I'm too much of a tightwad, man. I lose like a 50-cent bait, and I'm like cussing for like a half hour and going, man, why? I'm going to fish with 50-pound braid. That's all there's to it. No, I'm just playing. I don't go that bad, but I just don't like, I don't care if it's one that like I like haven't caught nothing on it, you know. I'm trying it out, and I fish it for 10 minutes, and then it gets snagged, and I'm like, oh, just son of a, I just rip it off, and then I just go on about my business. But man, you guys know the deal. This bait take this bait right here. That bait is a color that works. Like, honestly, where this really shines, if you guys, when we go down to that Pogue conservation area, whatever, this color right here. And it's funny, never right when you get there, all the way going as deep as you're going to go in. When you turn around to come back, there's this one section, and this color right here is game on. This spinnerbait in that color is like every second or third cast just catches them. And I mean, I've caught them other places, but there's that one little like special spot that, I don't know, something about a goldish brown shad color, whatever. They tear it up. But when you get on that, you got that bait that you've used for maybe it's only an hour, but you've caught 5, 6, 8 fish on it, and then it's hung, and you're like, oh god. I was telling Charles that, like, there's the guys that will hang up a $1 bait and rip it off. There's the guys that will hang up a $10 bait and just rip it off. Then there's me, and some of you may be like this. There's a guy that's got the $2.50 knockoff bait hung on a piece of wood, reeling down his $500 rod, jagging a tip on it just so he can get it back and save that $2.50 and possibly wearing down or doing something to his $500 rod. I know there's guys like me out there doing that. It's like, I can see it. I'm gonna get it. I can see it. I'm gonna get it back. But that's just how I've always been. That's why I don't like fishing from the bank, because I'm like, should I take my shoes off? Should I go swimming? Should I go get it? Or just break it? And usually I just break. I'm like, I'm not doing that gooey mud stuff in between my toes. Ugh. Now I'll go swimming if we're going full on swimming, but it's just something different. Like, oh God, I got to do this, and I didn't come prepared, and I go get in the truck and go back home. Then I got to explain myself. It's like, why'd you get so nasty? My $2.50 bait was stuck up on that tree over there, and I couldn't reach it unless I got out in the water. You guys know the deal. You guys know the troubles we get into when we're bank fishing or we hang a lure. See a Lake Ratatouille. Yeah. I don't know. I don't speak French or Italian. I barely speak English. But anyway. Yeah, I'm not going to try any of the, I don't think baits, to be honest with you. If you want to try, I mean, they may have totally revamped these or whatever. I've got the Guggen things I've really only tried were the buzz baits, and then I bought some of the the soft plastic bandito bugs, and they actually worked. Bandito bugs, I don't really have any issues with them, but I don't know if I'll be buying any more of those either or not. I thought about trying the Guggen rod. I don't like the handle. I don't know. I don't like any of the new stuff that's coming out. Let me move this out of the way and take one final drink. Oh, that's disgusting. Why do I keep drinking? Why do you guys keep letting me drink that? It's horrible. What was I talking about before I tasted that disgusting drink? I don't even know how much juice I got left on my phone. Well, we only got 40. Well, we got 40%. So we're good for a little while. Yeah, Guggen plastics. Like, I don't have any issues with Guggens, but oh yeah, I don't know what I was talking about now. The rods that way that some of the rods are being designed, the handles and stuff. So the Guggens are one. I don't like that weird handle they got going. I almost got the Mojo bass rods. I kind of don't know if I like the purple or not. I'm not really a huge fan of it, but they always kind of had too short of a handle in the first place. Like the cork was a little too stubby for me. Then they went to that crazy look, and I felt them, but that squared off, all that, I don't know. I don't like it. Doesn't really, I don't think it really feels that great to me, but it definitely looks weird. And I definitely don't like, let me try to show you this one when I'm talking about it. I get what they're doing, it's like a newfangled design, but, most old school traditional, you just cut your cork, like everything's kind of straight. Like you may have angles on your, plastic, carbon and all that. But the way they try to angle some of the cuts, like on the cork, and it's angled like this, and then it comes down, then it's angled like that, like why? All that extra, I don't know. I don't like it. I think it looks funky, in my opinion. So there's a lot of that new stuff that I think they went the wrong way. I was trying to think of what rod. Some of these new lines that came out, and I'm like, oh God, they went the wrong way. Honestly, I think they could all go right to this. And this is a cheap rod, but they just get it right. Because it's smooth. It's got soft touch. And then with this wind stuff, like it's nothing fancy, but it works. Like I think I may like that part, that reel seat better than I like almost all the other ones on these fancy rods I got, from the P5s to the X Prides. I mean, it's not far off. I think the NRX Pluses, I think they're the same as this, but they just have a different feel because I think the cork's bigger. Maybe the only reel seat I like better. I definitely like the soft touch, but I don't. The X Prides are probably a little better than my P5s. I think the P5s all need a little bit bigger grip, except for the Tequila Baccarat. But I like the soft touch. But I'll be honest, that it would be hard to not pick that reel seat over any other, just on how it's just smooth and feels good, and then it does what it needs to do. You can get your hand down there, you got direct contact to the blank, and it's all comfortable and feels very good. I don't really have one. They all feel good now, and actually I like the Dobbins one too. It feels pretty good, but it's not soft touch, but it is. I don't know what finishes they use. But some of these cheaper rods, even the Shimano's, oh shoot, not the X Pride, not the Poison Adrena, yeah, whatever the next cheapest one is. Those things feel cheap. That plastic reel seat feels slick and cheap. There's a lot of companies that also feel that way. It's like, yeah, you almost had it, but your reel seat, like you totally lost it. All right, guys, I guess if we don't need to talk about anything else, I'm going to get off here so I can go find something actually decent to drink. Put all this back up because I got to put this guy and this guy. No, not that guy. This one and this one's got work to do as soon as I do hit the water. These just need to go back in their homes for now, because I haven't done this. This is a test. This is like an upcoming deal that is just on the back burner for the moment. These just need to go put back up. And yeah, that one needs put back in the day box because he may get used. Probably not tomorrow, but the next true, like I'm going out fishing to get on a bite. So anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this little talking about everything, I guess. And we didn't really get into we talked a little bit about the Trickster spinnerbait from Rick Klein. If you guys actually use or fish that, comment what you think about it. But I think I'm going to get a few of those because I just like that style. And then as far as forward-facing sonar, I'm not getting one of those. I thought about buying the unit, the $1,000 one, just so I could have my take on it, try it. I like the idea. What I really want, what I've always wanted as soon as it came out, because what I've always said, I'm like, from the first time I ever bought a boat that had, and it wasn't down scan and side imaging, it was just, a fairly decent view of the bottom in color, not, black and white. Because my grandpa, I remember going fishing, he had the like black and white, and it had fish. Oh, there's a fish. Oh, there's a fish. Kind of thing on it. But I'm talking about showed you a decent kind of bottom. And I'm like, why don't they just aim that out? I want to see that, what I'm coming up to, not when I'm direct lander. Because I typically fish shallow water. And the minute I'm over it, it's nice to know it's there. But I've pretty much spooked, in my opinion. The biggest bass I could probably catch is probably already like, see you later. I mean, I may still catch some and all that kind of stuff, but So I like the idea of forward-facing sonar. I don't like the idea of going out and setting and crappie fishing for bass in one little spot, jiggling a little minnow over them, just like what I did when, all through the years of crappie fishing. I like going out and finding them when they're wanting to eat. It's a whole different story of getting on and finding them with forward-facing, and you start throwing baits in and they just start whacking them. But I think typically that's, I don't know. I haven't really sat and watched the guys, but when you're sitting there hounding a fish, wiggling something in its face, I'll be honest, it's just like, in my opinion, when you're sight fishing for, bass in beds and stuff, that's not true fishing, in my opinion. You see the fish, it sees you, but it can't leave because that's its home, that's its nest, and you're just sitting there pestering it to the point where eventually you're going to get it to hit, and you're like, oh, there's a skill, there's an art to that, Charlie. I know what you're saying. I've heard it all. I don't really consider that fishing. Just like forward facing, if you're just sitting there hounding a fish, especially the guys off camera that don't have a camera on them, the lower down in the rankings or whatever, you just go following around fish, and I'm fishing with the 3/4 ounce rattle trap like I brought out earlier, showing you the hooks on it. And who's to say you're out snagging bass trying to win a tournament with forward facing sonar? Don't tell me it's not happening somewhere already, or it could happen even more as it gets more popular and cheaper. I don't know what my take on it is. I like the idea of I would like to have what I've always wanted was the 360, like just a view of what's coming up to me, because, new bodies of water especially, but sometimes, we don't even know what's out there. Like, you may have fished a place several times, but, you come to a different spot you've never been to, if you're on a bigger lake or whatever, just to have an ability to see it coming so you can cast to it before you get to it is what I like, the whole technology of anything that's showing me what's out there. And then, whether I clock it in my head or, because I've never really used the whole, lake mapping and all the setting waypoints and all that kind of stuff. I'm just like logging in my head, like, just like, for instance, like one of the places you've seen me and Matt go, and he's used is, you didn't need the forward facing, but there's a boat sunken out not far from the boat ramp. There's a setup. There's like pallets or something just kind of out in the middle of nowhere in one of these coves you go into that we didn't know was there before. And all we really use the forward facing for is just look at it. Oh, there it is. Cast to it, and you watch your bait. Oh yeah, there it's right there. And then we just cast it. Really didn't just sit and stare at the forward facing and try to get fish if we saw them to hit it. And then same thing. There's a bush out there that I guess we kind of knew it was there, but it's so easy to find with forward facing. As you're coming up, you're like, oh, there's that bush, and you can just let you hit it quicker, more accurately, like on the first few casts, instead of just casting until you feel yourself bump it, and then you're like, you're on it, kind of thing. So I don't know. I have these talks with guys. Like, I go to my stops, and they're I'm out in the country, and so a lot of these guys are. Like, one guy bought it. I don't know. He ended up getting a unit. He said it only cost him $1,800, and he's got it on his boat. And he said he loves it. Now he fishes like, for everything, but he also fishes to catch and keep, crappie and stuff like that. He's not as big a bass fisherman, but he loves his. But like I was explaining to him, I'm like, I get it and all that, but man, there just comes a point where, and I think we're there now, is like if too many people get this, and more and more people, as more people start fishing, at some point, just like hunting, what happens when it's just next thing you know, they're going to be like, well, now we have a fishing season, which they claim, I guess there's some places up north that already like that. Like here where I'm at, it's open year round. Like, I go by a fishing license. It's good for the whole year in Missouri. I think Kansas may be the same way. But I literally, as long as the water's not completely frozen, I can go out, get on the water, and fish. And in my opinion, that's the way it should stay. But if you get to a point to where, and a lot of guys also, I've heard talks on different forums and stuff about overseas, there's certain places where they literally can't go get out on the water for like months. Like, they can't, during the spawn is shut down. So you can't be out on the water fishing during, certain times. And I definitely wouldn't want to see that, just because there's so many people now forward facing, they can go out there and just completely clean out fisheries kind of thing. And I know what you're saying, like, oh, it's impossible. I know. I keep hearing that on the forums, like, you can go out and catch every 6-pound bass you catch, and you're not gonna, lower the thing, and it's a bunch of baloney. Like, maybe a huge, gigantic lake that's not getting a bunch of pressure. You'd be surprised if you get, because let me tell you this story real quick. Now, this is a small body of water, but let me tell you the story. So, where we used to go, they call it the lake. It's not a lake. It was a lake, and then they sold off the lake, and it ended up just being 2 ponds. But this one pond was loaded with just little dinks. Like, I don't know if there was some bass in there, maybe 2-pounders. There wasn't a bunch. You'd catch one every once in a while. All it took was one guy. He moved down there, and his son, I think, come and stayed on the weekends. Well, the whole time they were down there, and then his buddies would come out, they caught and kept every fish they caught. I mean, every fish. And over one summer, I would go down there. You couldn't catch a fish. Not any size. Not the little, like, it was a place you could take a kid and catch a little dink bass. They were keeping the little dinks too. Trust me. They were just keeping everything. And you guys know what I'm talking about. There's those kind of people out there. They just keep whatever they catch. They throw it. They clean it however they clean it, and they eat it, right? And I mean, just totally annihilated that little pond that was an awesome, it was just like a fun place. You've probably seen it in a couple videos. Javier out there catching little perch and not perch, they're actually sunfish. But anyway, we don't have perch around here. Little bass, it was always fun. You go out there with the shaky head and just, the little dink, 6 to 8, 10 bass, like every time you just went down there, just jacking around for like, I don't know, half hour. It was no big deal. Every once in a while you catch, like I said, a pound and a half. Maybe I've never seen any big ones come out of there. Now the one below it, that was further away from them, they bought a little lot thing that had a little trailer deal like right on the corner. The other pond, which was further away, they actually had to drive a vehicle to, and it had some big bass. I think once they cleaned that one out, they started making trips here and there, but they just didn't hit that one as hard. But it got harder and slower, you know what I mean? Because I think they started keeping fish out of there. But all it took was literally just a couple people, and it was totally gone. So all it takes is 3 to 5 good fishermen that keep fish to eat to go out to, honestly, bigger bodies of water. Like, I'm going to use Lake Jacomo, for instance, which is pretty good population of fish. And I think a lot of the bass fishermen there are catch and release. But the fish kind of have the ability to get away from fishermen until now. Forward facing lets them, you can kind of hunt the fish. Before, you could kind of move around, and if you found them, you may find them for a little bit, but if they moved out, the sonar was so slow, you couldn't necessarily stay on, especially a specific fish, like totally hunt it down. Maybe some guys could, but the technology really wasn't there. But I've already heard stories of people being able to basically chase fish all around the lake, just a giant fish, until they catch it, kind of thing, whether they're snagging it or actually getting it to hit at a lure or whatever. But so I'm still up in the air with that on, is it cheating? I don't think it's really a true, I don't think it takes a lot of skill, in other words. I think it takes a lot of money to like go to a big lake, with a fast boat and forward-facing sonar and to fish like that. But I don't think it takes a ton of skill, in my opinion, a ton of time on the water to get to where you can do that. Just my opinion. I've never, like I said, I've never owned it. I've fished with Matt a few times and he's had it. It's just like when it does work, it's really one of the most boring ways to fish, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, when you're just there, it's kind of fun at first. Like, oh, look, I can see my bait. Oh, ooh, there's one. And like we'd usually get on like crappie or something. You know, I think that's what he was using it for. He'd go out and like crappie fish with the Matty, if you remember fishing with Matt and Matty and stuff like that. But you know, we were always just hitting them. I'm like, let's go to the stump field and let's hit here and let's go here. And you know, we worked around the bank and through, you know, looking for biting fish rather than fish that we were just trying to get to bite kind of thing. So that's my take on it. We're over 2 hours. I guess I'm going to get out of here. Anyway, comment below whatever you think. It's just my opinion. I don't know what Bass is going to end up doing with it. I know Major League Fishing, it's already become enough of an issue that they literally shut it down. Like they run a period with it and then leave it off for the rest. Because here's what I think also. Say every pro picks up forward-facing sonar and they all get out there. It's the most boring way to watch fishing. Like, honestly, unless you're into this, fishing's up next to golf. It's like the most boring thing you can watch. You have to be into it, right? And as much as I like fishing, I can't take it. The minute I watch, they like keep scanning these guys. When you guys know the deal, when they show up to the, and that's what's kind of seems to be working. I'm like, I'm out. Just sitting there watching the guy, you know, and he's just like holding the rod up, looking down the screen. Yeah, it looks like I think he's on him. And like 5 minutes later, oh, is that one? And it's like, dude, that is the most boring. You know, put a guy over there casting to a spot, throwing in a, I don't know. There's just, I don't know. To me, I think if they leave it, viewership's only going to go down more and more because most people, first of all, I don't think have it and try to go out, and I don't think a true bass fisherman fishes for bass because of all these variations of lures you can get out there. You're on the water using and doing stuff. If, like in my mind, if I'm going to go out and be doing that, I'd just soon go out crappie fishing, catching them to go keep them and clean them and eat them because I've ate all of them and crappie tastes better than bass. And like, I'd rather be doing that. Well, since I'm glad you brought that up. I know this is a long video. Game and Money TV said they should have 2 leagues or categories, one with forward facing and one without. Here's what I think. Like if it's going to stay, if they want to leave it in major, you know, in the majors, in the major league fishing, in the bassmasters, in tournaments and that kind of stuff, they should almost put some sort of, I don't know, kind of give it a handicap in a way. So maybe that's a light line thing. So you're out in the middle of nowhere. You're using forward-facing sonar, so therefore you should have to use, like, say, I don't know, 6-pound line or something to where it may turn guys that, like, not want to do that, or the guys that do, then to watch them try to get in fish with a a very light rod and reel combo kind of thing may make it more entertaining to watch and put more of a skill level on it kind of thing. Maybe, I don't know. That's just what I was thinking out loud. Is like, in my mind, I'm like, if I were to, like, you told me I had to go out and I had to find suspended fish out somewhere, you know, offshore, and what would make it the most fun would be, you know, BFS or just some kind of light line type thing, like even 2, 4, 6-pound test, to where, you know, it becomes a chore in getting that fish in because you know you're there, you're on them, and they're there, and you're going to catch them, kind of thing. Just something that instantly popped in my head. That would kind of make it fun for me. Just like I like BFS fishing. You know, you go to a place and you're all that's there is this. It's no fun on regular gear. That's one of the reasons why I got into BFS. One of the main places I like to go fishing. You know, there was a chance of catching a big one, and you can still catch a big fish on 6-pound test. You catch a giant fish. I mean, I've seen people, little crappie jig, 4-pound test, catch 6, 8-pound fish. You can do it. It's tough. It definitely takes a lot of, don't, horse them, a little bit of rod management. You got to know kind of what you're doing. I'm not saying you can't accidentally do it, but it's makes it harder and harder the lighter you go with the line, smaller the hook, all that. So if I had to do it, that's the only thing that would make it fun for me. And possibly if I was watching it, that may make it, if I knew like, dude, that guy's only got, you know, I don't know, whatever it may be. And he may change that due to which lake you're at. You're down Florida or Texas, it's 6 pound or whatever. You're further up north where you're only going to catch 2 pounders, then maybe it's 2 pound, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah, Randy Blockett, like that dude, I don't know. Some stuff I agree with what he says, and then other times I'm like, man, he's been fishing too long. Probably like me, but I'll be honest, from the get-go, the first time I ever watched somebody out there, sight fishing, the bedded fish thing, I'm like, man, that just I get it. You're bass fishing. It's just not. First of all, it's not for me. I mean, maybe it might be fun to do once, and I understand that that's one way to go out and look for giant fish. And netting a fish is also. Let me put this out there. Like, I love watching tactical bassing, and stuff like that. But man, the way they just instantly go for that net, that is not me. You can ask Charles. Like, it's in one of the videos, the first smallmouth bass I ever caught. They're like, get a net, and I'm like, I'll get it. And then Charles, you can hear Charles in the background is like, he don't like a net. Like, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in boat flipping big fish. The little dinks, like instead of wasting your time, the small ones that you can just lift up to you, grab them, unhook them, throw them back. That's a little different. That minute that fish is probably anywhere close to 2 pounds, because the chance of killing that fish, boat flipping it into your boat, and they let them flop around, way increased with boat flipping, as reaching down, grabbing that sucker with your thumb, trying to be careful if you need to take a pick or whatever you need to do, and then toss it back in. The There's several people also talking about the mortality rate on like the Bassmaster Classic. They drove them all the way here, and like a lot of them big fish they were catching were like 14 hours living in live wells and then out of their actual habitat kind of thing. Yeah, it's one of those things you don't know yet because it's not as and I hate to put it this way because I hate to like talk down on people, but it's still, understand, like right now they just came out with one that's $1,000, but $1,000 is still a lot of money to a lot of people. And if that gets around I don't know, say a $500 or less kind of thing, I guess what I'm saying is the class of people, and I'm not even dogging them, but the class of people that love to keep fish. Like, I've heard people on forums like try to argue to me that keeping a 5 pound to an 8 pound bass because they got to feed their family. And I'm like, dude, if you got to go bass fishing to feed your family like that, you're doing something wrong. First of all, if you're wanting to feed your family, go crappie fishing. Don't go bass fishing. If you're strictly for the meat, bass fishing is probably one of the least ways to go out and do it. Like, go, crappie fishing. But I understand if you got to go out and do that, it's probably way easier to go out and catch a lot of 2 pounders than it is the 1, 6, 8, 10 pounder, whatever you catch. And I understand some places down, the further south you go, maybe your average fish does get to a bigger size or whatever, and there's nothing wrong. It's legal. Like, yes, I understand the whole point and what fishing was originally started for was to catch and keep, but we've advanced somewhat to where you can go to Culver's and get you some fish, Long John Silver's. You can go to Red Lobster. Several places sell you fish, like markets and whatever. And in all honesty, I'd been better off if I was worried about feeding my family. I would have not bought none of this. I would have just went and bought meat and not even messed with going fishing, period. So we do it for the fun of it, right? Nowadays, like we're not out there, some of us still do, yes, hunting and stuff, but like, way over going fishing. Go get you a deer license and go get, get good at deer hunting. You can couple deer and you're like, you're done for the year or so on your feeding your family, having meat. Wait, Game and Money says they have a forward facing called Acufy that hooks up to an iPad for $3.99. It's sold out. It's a game changer. Huh. I don't. The only one I've seen, the one that came out this year, that whatever, I can't even think of the name of it now, but it's like $1,000, but it's a unit with the transducer. So you just hook it up and it gives you one little like view. And I mean that would be all you would probably need to like kind of track the fish. Once you get out and you kind of get on a school of fish and you can kind of hunt them around, kind of thing. Like I call that hunting. Like you're not fishing. I mean, it's really that simple to me. Like you're going fishing, and fishing is a sport. So if you're going fishing, forward-facing sonar takes fishing and turns it into hunting. You're hunting that down. You're like there. Like you're not fishing around to see where they're at. You know where they're at. That showed you, and you're following them. Like it's capable to follow them, and doesn't just, oh, there they are, and then you got to wait for that little, to come around and ping again or cross over. Wait for the screen to, yeah, they're still there, kind of deal, to where you can, in just like it says, live scope. It's a live feedback to where you can trace them, follow them, and all that, and hunt them down until they hit something. So I don't know. It wouldn't bother me if they just totally, like, I'll be honest, it wouldn't bother me if they banned all of it, because the screen, what I use mine for, I'll be honest, more than anything, what time is it and what's the water temperature? I look at that more than I look at anything on mine. What do I have? I've got down scan, side imaging. Now, once I start moving, I'll kind of watch the, wherever the side imaging that's facing the deep side, just in case there's something I didn't, I don't know is there, or pick it up. And then every once in a while, if I'm kind of out of the corner of my eye, I kind of will be glancing at it. If I see what I call them bowling balls, like on mine, just the way it's set, I haven't set it for that reason or anything. It just, once it just has this round thing on the bottom, and sometimes it'll look like stacked up bowling balls, like, or cannonballs kind of thing. Like if you see what looks like, if you've ever seen a stack of the old school cannonballs beside a cannon, or just bowling ball, like round shaped stuff, I usually throw that. It's usually a bass. It's just the way how I pick it up. And it's usually because I'm on top of it, so I'll just keep going. I may just, if I've got the trolling motor on whatever speed, I just keep buzzing like, oh, there's something. I just keep, kind of, ooh, let me get away from it. And then I'll turn around and I try to, remember, get my visuals. Where was I? And then get away from it. And maybe just keep fishing this way. Give it, a minute or two or whatever, and then turn around and then try to hit it and see, if I didn't spook them, if they're still hit, if they're still there or whatever. On mine, it was a KVD one. I don't even remember what the name of it is exactly, and I think it's out in the shed locked up right now. Otherwise, I'd look at it. But I mean, it works. It's helped me on maybe, I don't know. I've definitely caught a 5-pounder. I would have never. I was fishing at the Odessa Reservoir, and we were going from like a point and going to the other side of the bank. And as we were crossing, I just looked down. I'm like, oh. And I seen, just like I talked about, there's just this round little thing out in the middle of nowhere. It was just this little round, like ball-looking thing on the bottom. I said, hang on. And I had a little TRD jig, I think with the TRD on it. And I just, hang on, I turn around, cast back, where I thought it was when I saw it pick it up, and let it sink to the bottom. Gave it like one little pop and boink, 5-pounder. I was like, wow, I wish it was that easy all the time, because it's not that easy all the time. But I would have never stopped to cast back in that spot if it wouldn't been for seeing that little ball. And then a few times I've been going down the bank like I talked about, and I saw these little, I'm catching them on the bank, but I kind of lost where they were. I think they moved. And so I was over here, and then I kind of came around and I circled around. I was going to hit it again. Well, as I was passing, I saw them here. I'm like, oh, they completely moved over here. So I just did a little UE back over here, stayed over back and out of the way, and then started casting this way towards the bank where I know I'd be crossing them. And then I got on another little tear with them right there and caught, wasn't any monsters. I mean, it was several decent size, couple pounders and then a couple dinks, but there was a definite little mini school of bass that I found with that little, and it was just down scan is what I kind of, or just regular sonar really. Both of them showed it down scan and a regular. I could kind of make out, like, pretty sure that's a little group of bass just off the bottom. It was on the dam area. So I mean, there's been a few other times, but a lot of times you'll go across and you're like, oh man, that looks good, there's something there, and you just get back and start casting to it and nothing. But there's usually times where I'll see, like, oh, there's a tree and it looks like there's nothing on it. Now I might make a cast or two and usually nothing. Like, yep, it showed right, there's nothing on that kind of deal. All right, guys, definitely got to go now. 2 and almost a half hours on tonight's live stream. So I would like to thank everybody that's commented, that's viewed, that's going to watch this in the future. Feel free to comment below what you think of Rick Klein, the Trickster spinnerbait, Chatterbaits, forward-facing sonar, Randy Blunkett, the Guggen Chatterbaits, the Guggen Bandito Bug, not the Guggen Whopper Plopper knockoff. What else did we talk about? Oh, the Whopper Plopper. And did I mention Chatterbaits? I always mention Chatterbaits. I always fish Chatterbaits. That's why I was talking about it. My favorite thing to fish, Chatterbaits. Next would be, I don't even know. I'm trying to make myself I do like spinnerbaits again, but not like I used to. Once Chatterbaits came out, like you've heard a lot of people talk, spinnerbaits kind of went, and you get back. Chatterbaits. And then probably shaky head with the zinkers or with the regular one would be somewhere around the square bills. I would prefer the square bills, but I honestly catch way more and bigger fish once I go to that soft plastic stuff. And I'm trying to make myself get into the swim jigging, swimming the swim jig rather than just slow and down to the point where I'm just bouncing it off the bottom kind of thing. To try to find a little more in between jig, swim jig, spinnerbait, chatterbait, are skirted type fishing. I guess, wow. No. It's my least favorite way to fish with the rattle trap? No, there's times when it's my favorite way, but it's probably my least productive way, like steady way, because I feel you either get in places that have spots where the rattle trap works better, or you get a seasonal thing like where rattle trap will just kick in and work for like that weekend, maybe another weekend, and it just kind of shuts down, in my opinion anyway. But it's one of those, I mean, it always pretty much works. If you go between like a 1/2 ounce and a 3/4 and change up some stuff, and definitely in the winter, like when we did the bottom bouncing thing. So I don't know. It's just once you dive down deep and start really breaking into different retrieves and stuff, they all work. And like a jerkbait's probably my least favorite way to fish, because when you get on a good jerkbait bite, it flat wears you out. Just that whole jerking. But man, there's times when a jerkbait bite works. Kind of like that's what a rattle trap is. I feel a chatterbait for the best search bait, and you can just get, once you get onto the right size, color, and roughly the way the fish are, I don't know. I just feel there's times when I get on a chatterbait bite that will last like a long time. Yeah, well, that's probably why it's not my favorite. It's my most like I've said before. If you don't even need side imaging, down scan, you don't even need forward facing sonar really. You just buy enough rattle traps and just cast them out, let them hit bottom, and start bringing them back. You'll know every little thing in that lake, and the fish will hit it if they're there. But you will go through so many rattle traps. when I remember I kind of got away from it. Like when I fished from the bank, spinnerbaits. If you guys remember the man's baby -1, very very shallow crank, wasn't even a square bill, but like it just I could throw it, I could see wood and throw it over there, and then just reel it slow, and it just would never quite get down to where it would hit the wood. In a spinnerbait, you could kind of get it, as long as you kept it moving, it kind of went across, lay downs and stuff, fishing from the bank. And then like if I would throw, like certain times I would throw baits or I'd drag it, and I had Texas rig worked up with the Jean LaRue tomato red worm. That was my how I finessed. That was the only way I finessed. I'd throw that out, and if I drug it across bottom and I didn't feel like wood, then I'd throw my rattle trap. It was kind of I'd send that Texas rig out as like a search, and I don't even know if I didn't hardly fish jigs near as much. I mean, I had some, but I would say I went from 100 to 0 that fast. I'd be spinner baits, faster moving baits, and then just slow down. Throw if those weren't biting, I threw that worm out, let it hit bottom, and then I would vary. If I just pulled it, killed it, pulled it, killed it, or threw it out, let it hit bottom, and then just reeled it back. And usually that's all it took to get me some fish, kind of thing. I don't know. The way we advance and then go backward, sometimes we go back and then back the other way. Silver rattle trap with the blue back is goated. Yeah, I got one of those somewhere. Well, maybe I don't anymore. But I had my rattle traps out. I may have gotten rid of that one. You're talking about the regular rattle trap? I had one. I don't know if I took it out of here or not. I kind of like this one. So I kind of went away from the regular rattle traps. I like this one now. It's silver with the blue back, but these are pretty good. Now I did keep this one in, but this one, I think you're talking about, it's like this, but it's got a blue back instead of black. That dude is my oldest rattle trap, period. It's caught a ton of fish. But there was a time when, whoa, all I threw was half-ounce rattle traps, and it was one of them. And I think I had a blue one with silver, this one, and I didn't have many, but I just had some half-ounce rattle traps, and I had a couple jerk baits and a couple square bill type baits, and then I had a bunch of the mans, and then they started making them cheaper. I don't know if you guys remember that transition. The mans 1 minus or whatever, a lot of the mans baits, but the mans 1 minus, man, they used to be made pretty good. And their baby bass color was my favorite, and then they totally like went to crap on how they made it, how they painted it up. I don't know if the plastic, that what it was made out of got cheapened or not, but I felt like they just didn't quite have the same exact looks and actions as they did. So, and then I don't even know if they're a thing anymore, but I haven't fished one of those in I don't know how long. I don't think I have the regular rattle trap like that. Did I pull any rattle traps out? So yeah, I still got my old baits that I pulled. Some of them, these are new. Some of them I barely fished. Some of them I didn't even fish. I just bought them and they didn't look right to me, so I threw them back out. Didn't make the cut. Tumbling them around till I like them, or they're going to get rid of them. You guys are all going bye-bye. You're going to have buddies here shortly. As soon as I get out and actually start getting more time on the water, I don't know about half, but a lot of these baits that I've got still in my tackle box, they're coming out. Like this dude right here, he's coming out. He may come out tonight. This dude right here, that was a test I was doing. I mean, it's a good bait. The color is horrendous. I need to dip it in some acetone, completely clean it off, and then peel that skirt off and do something else. All right, battery saver came on. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm out of here. See you later. Stay tuned. Be watching for it in the morning. The video is going to drop 6 a.m. That it's not a real long video, just me out there doing a little fishing, catching a few bass. Nothing special, but make sure and watch it. You can't really drop a link here, but try to give me roughly, if you have to spread it out, when this video goes to a regular video, on which one it is, and I'll see if I've fished it or not. I have tried like 3 to 5 different brands of rattle traps from AliExpress. See you later, guys. Gotta go.